Hiya Benchmates, welcome to Beyond the Box Art, the podcast about models, modelers, and getting far too excited about the latest releases. Please welcome your host, Paul Pendleton-Brown, with Mike Baldwin, Dan Brazil, Shane Cowie, Luke Flynn, Mark Housley, James Nevitt, and Paul Wong. And we are joined this episode by Carl Robertshaw, talking about his award-winning Spitfire build, and by Christopher Mercer from Fischkopp Model Company. Beyond the Box Art is brought to you by Ammo by Mig Jimenez, Fischkopp Model Company, Guideline Publications, Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, and The Scale Modelers Supply.
Hi Benchmates, and welcome to episode 19 of Beyond the Box Art. And I am joined by Boulders, Walt, Wongy. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Benchmates.
Nevs.
Hi, everyone.
Mark.
Hello, everybody.
And for the first time for this section, we are joined by Shane Cowie.
How you doing, everyone?
So Shane does our Stash Inflation and the Gundam expert for the show. So welcome to the talking about absolute nothing for the next hour or so. But anyway, welcome. And with that, we will carry on with what we've actually got on our benches. Boulders, what have you got on the bench at the moment?
I'm still working on the Trumpeter 1350th Admiral Graf Speer. Should be done in a couple of weeks. I'm just spraying everything at the minute. So that's what I've got on the bench. Nothing else. So yeah, it's going to be on a seascape.
Okay.
Like it was.
Cool. And what have you been spending your cash on then? Anything in the New Year's sales?
Oh, yes. I was mad enough to go to Cheshire Oaks.
Oh.
Used my little trick and avoided all the parking palaver. And I bought 2 new pairs of trainers.
That's not quite what we had in mind.
I know, but I've not bought anything modelling related. So, yeah, I've only bought 2 pairs of trainers.
Which ones did you get?
Tell me your ones. Solomon's. No, Solomon's.
He's looked for the best ones to be able to get around in and out between the stands at Bolton, so it'll be spring-loaded or something.
They are spring-loaded. They are comfort.
They're made for comfort because you're going to do some steps on that Sunday, aren't you?
I know 3 people already ordered me a bacon butter, so I'll be cashing in on that in the morning.
Diet's going well then.
What diet?
Right, in that case, moving on quickly. Dan.
Well, this wasn't supposed to happen. I ended up getting me B24D Liberator for Christmas. And what turned into, I'm just going to have a look in the box and check this canopy. Ended up, the cutters were out and the fuselage is together and painted. The cockpit's in and done. The wings are together. The engines are in. And I'm just working on the landing gear now. So it was been a complete squirrel. I totally wasn't expecting to do it, but it's been a nice little Christmas build, to be honest with you. And I've ordered my paint from Scott. I'm going to go with Desert Yellow. But I do believe that these Desert Liberators, the yellow turned quite pinky quite quickly in the sun. So, yeah, that's basically what's been on the bench and overtaken, and everything else has just been paused because I just went with it. You just start and I thought, well, I'm enjoying it, so I'm just going to carry on doing it. I'll get it to a stage. I did, moving on with the situation with this canopy, sent a little email to Airfix and they were very good. I have to say, they contacted me back straight away and said, yep, we know about the canopy. Can you give us the kit number and some certain other numbers? Where did you get it? And all the rest of it. Gave them that info and I got an email the next day saying there's the correct canopies in the post to you. So hopefully don't drop kick it down the driveway and it arrives in one piece. I'll be ready to go on with the canopy, and I've got a mask set for it as well.
Oh, cool.
So I'm really, really happy. Yeah, really happy. I'm not going to go with Lady Be Good, the markings of what this one was supposed to be. That was the one that was lost and then found many, many years later.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, I've got the decals from Kit's World from their Warbird series, and it's going to be called the Squaw. And on the other side, it's got Sleepy, which is one of the Seven Dwarves, I believe. And that's from the...
Is that from the Ploesti raid?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the Ploesti. It's one of the Pyramidas, and it's the 98th Bomb Group. I don't think I've ever painted a desert scheme on an aircraft before, so I'm not going to grey and then panel line and then paint it. I'm just going to black the whole thing and then do my usual sort of infill each panel. But I've not used the SMS before, so bit of an experiment, but give it a go. See how it goes. I'm sure it'll look all right when it's done.
Did they put the desert yellow over the top of olive drab?
They did. Yeah, they did. They turned up olive drab and then they were painted desert yellow. So the demarcation line between the grey underneath and the desert yellow is quite hit and miss and quite soft as well. It's not masked or defined.
Did they fly from the UK?
I'm not sure on that, Mark. I'm not sure on that, Mark.
I just wondered whether they'd used RAF colours like Midstone or something like that.
I don't think they did. It probably depends on the batch and the order at what point they were needed to be in that colour and what. I would imagine some of the later ones probably did leave the factory in the correct colour.
I know the Americans did use certain RAF colours for camouflage here and there.
Yeah, they did.
Especially on the P-47s later in the war.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind later on doing an RAF Coastal Command one of these, but I don't know what I need, what model I need, and what if there's an expensive conversion that would need to be purchased.
I think that one will do.
That will do it. I have to say, the Liberator's a bit of a chunker anyway, but the D has got the prettier nose on the front, and you can see right into where the Bombardier sits. So, but yeah, that's what's on the bench. It's taken over. How far I'll get until I say, right, it needs painting session, and I'll jump back onto something else and then batch paint as I usually do.
Yeah.
Is anyone's guess. But no, it's been great. I have to say the Christmas break has been fantastic for just getting lots of hours in, sitting at the bench, eating Christmas biscuits and doing modelling. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
And of course, we had a prolonged session at the bench. Obviously, people are listening to this in the middle of January, but this is recorded on the 30th of December. We actually had our 6-hour natter and build session online between Christmas and New Year, and we got so much done.
Yeah. Purchase-wise, I have jumped on the 132nd train, the Tamiya 132nd train, and I've bought 3 132nd kits. And one is the Zero, the other is the Birdcage Corsair, and the Spitfire Mark 9. So yeah, I won't be buying anything for a while.
You have been busy.
Good choice.
I have been very busy. They are stunning. They're so nice kits. They really are. But that's it for now for a while. I've got to ease up.
And instead of spraying it black underneath, do it olive drab instead, because most deserts, the 24 Liberators, were olive drab beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the undersides were the grey, weren't they? Neutral grey.
Underside's exactly the same. It's neutral grey underneath, so it was just the tops. So the top camouflage colour was changed from olive drab to either desert pink or desert tan, because the sun was that harsh to them anyway. They went like an apricot colour, like an orangey colour. So I would just, instead of spraying it black, I'd just go olive drab.
Yeah, I think I will. And the other thing I have done with this is closed the waist gunner windows, the ones that pull down, because I noticed in a lot of footage on YouTube, especially during takeoff, they closed them, and I can only assume it was to stop all the dust from getting in. And a lot of the bomb bays were closed as well when they were parked up, again, probably to stop dust and whatnot getting in. But can you imagine how hot they must have been when they went? And because they had a little panel on the side that was like an auxiliary switch, so they can open the bomb bays from outside, and then a lot of them climbed up and got in through the bomb bay. I know there's the ladder at the back, and then through the front wheel well was also an access point. But I watched, is it Kermit Weeks on YouTube? He's got a Liberator that's an ex-Indian Air Force, I think it's ex-Indian Air Force, in his museum, and he tries to get in through the front wheel well, and he said you can tell that this is suitable for guys that are in their 20s and nice and skinny, because it's a bit of a squeeze to get up through that way. Yeah, but I think Bombay was the main point of entry.
Cool. Okay. With that, moving on then. Mark, what have you got on the bench?
Same as last time, really. I've just got the Grumman Wildcat, which is my Tamiya build for the Bolton show. It's moved on a midges. And that's been it, really. I haven't really done anything else apart from I built myself a new airbrush spraying booth. And that's it. That's what I've been spending my cash on. But it's been pretty boring here, unfortunately.
Oh, you've been eating.
Well, there's that. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, so much for the diet, as it were.
Have you got an extension so you can actually reach the bench now?
I've never had trouble reaching the bench. I just have to, there's a little bit of a cutout in it, so I'm all right. Just to fit my top. Just to show you I know where, that's what the thing I built.
Oh, brilliant.
And it's just made out of plastic. That pops off, that front bit there pops off, and there's more. So I take that off, you pull that off, and then you've got other vents in there. And
Oh, right. Okay. Very professional. It's like a proper HVAC system.
there's 6 fans in that,
Blimey.
and it shifts everything. It's really good. So,
You certainly got more filters in that than one of the standard bench ones, haven't you?
well, yeah, I've got sides as well. I've finished off the sides today.
What's that? About 2 foot wide?
No, it's still smaller than everything else, and then you've got like one on, that on that either side. So,
And does it run off of standard plug socket?
yeah. It's 9.5 inches in depth
Right.
by 17.5 wide.
Okay. Have you tried it yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Super duper.
No, you haven't had to make any adjustments. You're happy with it?
Not really, no. The only thing, I've got all the bits to stick on with Velcro. The first thing I used was the really strong earth magnets, the little tiny things you can get. It wasn't really good enough, so I've Velcroed everything then. But with it being foam, you've got to cover the foam edge because super glue in it aren't great, and I haven't got any of the special super glue that is meant for foam.
Mark, why have you had to do this? Did you not have an extractor at all, or?
I did, but it was pants. It was a really cheap thing that I got from Amazon, I don't know how many years ago.
Yeah.
And when I used it, the thing is, all the years I've been spraying, I've rarely bothered, to be honest with you. And so I've had this little spray booth for, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years. I'm not dead sure. And a couple of weeks ago, I literally got a gobful while I'm spraying away, and it knocked me for 6 for a couple of days. I really could feel it on my chest.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, I don't want to be doing that. And then foolishly, a couple of days later, I thought, well, I'll just give it a minute. I just had a little bit of something to spray. I did it again. So I thought, right, that's it. Time has come now.
Yeah.
I'm getting on a bit. Maybe I've got away with it. I don't know yet. So I thought, right. So when I went looking at the ones commercially available, they're a lot of money for a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's an investment in your safety, isn't it?
What we're talking about?
400? No. 400 quid for it. There's a company in the UK that make one. It's called Bench Vent. Lovely guy. I had a chat with him, but they were bigger than I wanted because I didn't want something that was going to take my bench up completely. They were probably more than I would have needed, but yeah, it's 400 quid. Plus then you've got your filter costs every 3 to 4 months. And he was saying that's when you need to change them. And that's 100 quid for a pack of 3. So I just thought I need to see if I can do something myself.
You only get one set of lungs, though, Mark.
Yes, true. We used to say that on the building site with people with the grinders and the skill saws and no goggles on. And you say you only get one set of eyes, mate.
I think for all of us building models using sharps and chemicals, we really all should think about
Shop safety.
shop safety. Yeah. And none of us really know what's in some of this stuff unless you're really into chemistry. You take it as a given that it's safe to use, but probably in all of the small print, I would assume it says using well-ventilated areas and all the rest of them. None of us should be spraying anything indoors without ventilation. We really should not, because it ain't just us, it's other members of our family and our pets. And this stuff, chemicals, sits around on your clothes and everything. So we really should be looking after it.
Well, I've been doing it for years. I've been stupid, I suppose. Just shut the door, open the window, and that's pretty much it. And this last couple of instances where I've done it, it's the first time I've had a bit of a reaction, and I thought, I don't want that again.
Well, it's a warning then, isn't it?
But so there, yeah, that's been it for me. It cost me about 100 quid in the end. I actually reckoned it up. It's £105, 36p is what I spent.
That 36p makes all the difference.
That's what I thought.
Right. Okay, then, moving on. Nevs, what have you got on your bench?
I'm still working away on the USS Indianapolis for Bolton. It's had a prime. It's ready for its first spray coat soon. So there's just one prop on the underside that needs doing. I've spent as much time, I won't make this an Indianapolis episode like the last one, but I've spent as much time doing the research as I have building the thing. So we said last time, like Boulders and I, it didn't have aircraft on at the time of its sinking, and that's not true. It still carried the aircraft from San Fran to Tinian to Guam, and then when it sank, it's just that one of the hangars was full of nuclear bomb parts. So I'm going to build the 2 Seahawks that come with a kit. And then the other bit was, apparently in 1945, they'd run out of blue pigment essentially in the US. So it should be in Measure 22, which is the official government camouflage. But I've seen the documents that said Measure 22 is essentially without blue for the deck now. So the deck is essentially like a dark grey colour. So at least it will offset the seascape. I'm going to be doing the very first seascape.
Oh, well done, Nevs.
Because if I'd done it in the blue, Wongi, one of the recommended colour for the deck is what you use, is what is the XF17 that you recommend for the ocean. So it would have been ultra camouflaged.
That's why they used it.
So yeah, but it's going to have more of a grey deck, and the Vallejo London Grey apparently is a pretty good match for that. So I'm going to use that because I've got a bottle. But yeah, that's what I've been working away on. It's going great. And then what I've been spending the cash on, I'll just show our visual listeners. I apologise for our listeners, but this came in the post from China. So I'll move it a bit closer. So it's a Model Collect 72nd scale Horn 18 flying wing. It'll be huge when it's built. It's going to be at least the size of a B2, if not bigger. I should have a second one in the post, but it's not arrived. But yeah, that'll be good. And then the link that I sent you all about the 3D printed battleship parts, I spent a small fortune with them ordering a World War I dreadnought and all of the turrets that go in it, because the model bow ray, they do the full barbette where you can get all the way down. And I've been to the bottom of one of these barbettes when I was in the US, and it's incredible. So I thought that's a few kits worth of upgrades. They do a Bismarck one, so I've got the Bismarck. They've got the 305mm ones for the dreadnought, so I bought one of those. So yeah, I've spent a bit of money, and I know it's just been dispatched as well, so it's on its way here from Germany.
Moving on then, Wongi.
Oh, hello. Right.
Can you remember what you're supposed to do in this part of the show? It's been such a long time.
Well, do you know what? Can you make mine a 2-hour episode on what I've bought and what I've got on the desk?
You've got 5 minutes.
But I'll go through. Right, I'll make it short and snappy. So I'm working on Tamiya F16A, Tamiya Nissan Skyline GTR R33, which is always important. Tamiya Dragonfly. I'm refurbing something which I built back in 1980 something, and its wings broke. So I'm refurbing it. Tamiya Sand Scorcher. There you go for all you ODs. Dan's just nodded his head. Mark's shaking his head, not knowing.
I'm not saying that because I'm an oldie. I'm saying because I know what it is.
Yeah, this is the old Sand Scorcher. So apparently it's worth quite a lot of money, or it was anyway. And to top it off, I may start the F35C, which I bought in Hong Kong, which is a lovely kit. I did get the F14D while I was out there as well, but having watched Luke's video, I'm just going to put it to one side because Luke probably did a better job than I would. So don't you just hate him?
Yes.
Yeah, he made an absolutely beautiful job. I watched the video today. So that's that stuff. In terms of what I've bought, right, I went to Dragon's warehouse because they have a warehouse sale on Friday and Saturday. Yeah. And if you guys remember or can recall the Dragon 1/9 scale Iron Man kits that they used to do before they lost the franchise. Yeah. They had them in there, people of the world, for $15 Hong Kong dollars, which if you do the math, the rest of the world is about £1.50 for a kit. Mic drop. There you go. So I bought a couple of those and still had change for the bus home. Also, I bought, while I was in there, they had loads of 1350 kits of, quite old kits apparently, of the USS Arleigh Burke. And what was the other one called? I can't remember the other one. Anyway, I bought it because it was 20 quid and I thought, why not? So I did that one. And
Yep, rude not to.
Was it the Ticonderoga?
that's it. That was the one. Cheers, Mike. And the other one, which while I was out there, because I was buying for other people as well, nameless people, we won't go into this, I stumbled upon a model shop, which has a rather unfortunate name. And I bought myself the Tamiya USS Enterprise kit, 1350, which is huge. It's over a meter when complete. I'm trying to get that back into my suitcase. Yeah. Especially Ryanair, flipping it. You never get them in these bags. You know what I mean? So I managed to fit it in there. And while I was contemplating, should I get some photo etch to make it nice and things like this, I just accidentally pressed the button and ordered all the Edward stuff for it. And the Edward stuff came to double the cost of the actual kit itself, which...
That's fairly normal now, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and having looked at the Edward stuff, I don't think I'd use half of it, to be honest. Because having looked at the kit parts look not too bad. But certain other bits need replacing, obviously, so I might do that. So, yes, that's me. And while I finish off in my little roundup, Shane, I had a bit of a palpitation when I was in Hong Kong, because I went into a model shop and it was
Is that what you call it?
it was wall-to-wall Gundam to the point where I was overwhelmed because it's one of those things where when you go into a shop, a model shop, and you don't understand anything or what's going on or who's a goodie or who's a baddie or wherever, because you've never seen any of the cartoons, you walk in there and there's such an abundance of the stuff. I just got slightly overwhelmed, to be honest. So we'll have a chat later on.
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, to be fair, my boy, he's desperate to go to the Gundam base in Japan. He's been at me all year, so 2025 anyway. He's like, can we go? Can we go? I'm like, do you know how expensive flights are now since COVID? But he sees it on things like YouTube, and yeah, the wall of Gunpla boxes, yeah, it's incredible. I've never seen it myself to that sort of scale that you're describing there. I've just seen it on, like when I've been to a few resellers like Gunpla UK up near Wakefield, but it's like shelves of stuff rather than like a wall.
It's quite literally a wall where most of these model shops that I went into, it was no more than, the actual aisle space was no more than 2.5 foot. So you actually stood with your face looking at a box end, and it was hard to actually stand back and look at the whole wall. You were basically just microscoping over each box as you were going through.
The artwork on it is, all of them really are ridiculous. They're so good, so well detailed. Actually, you have to, it's a bit like studying the magazines for all the releases, like Airfix, for example. You sit there and you've actually got to really understand the detail of what
you're trying to do.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I was watching a video from Lincoln Wright actually, and he was saying about how when and goodbye in these kits, especially for my oldest boy, he had mentioned to you guys before, and he appeared on the Nationals episode. Having a vision, when you buy these kits, you put them together, you can build them out the box, but if you want to take it to the next level, you want to customize them, or you want to try and do a battle hardened one, it's having a vision as to what you want to achieve, whether you want it clean, like I think a couple of the awards that were issued at Scale Model World back in November, they were issued to basically like clean painted models. But if you want to do a battle hardened, you've really got a bit like the guys were saying about wings and the boats and stuff like that. You've really got to have a vision in your head as to what you want to achieve, whether you're doing a waterscape, but the colours that are involved in it. Yeah, but the kit's the start of it. Finding which one you want to do is the tip of the iceberg, quite literally.
Oh, tell me. I know. It's a slippery slope, as they say, to get into that.
What scale was that F16 you're doing, by the way?
The F16 is 1/48 scale. Oh yeah, I lost the decals. That's good, isn't it? When you open a box and you put something down and then suddenly
Where did I put it? And the wife's carting stuff off to the bin.
That's normally Mike, but he's Mr. Lose It.
Yeah, so anyway, I had to buy some new decals when I was at Scale Model World. I'll be doing it not as per the box cover, which was the original F-16A, the red, white and blue version.
Oh, the display aircraft.
Yeah, the test one. I'm going to do it just as a boring grey. Which one was it? I can't remember which tactical fighter wing it was, but it will have just the sort of low vis stuff on it.
That sounds good. My boy's just finished a 72nd scale one, the Hasegawa one.
Oh, lovely.
He's got a 48 one to do as well. So also missing decals. So I'll be visiting the hand.
There you go.
Now on my bench in a minute, I've actually got a bit of a palette cleanser because the kids had taken over my bench over the last couple of months, to be honest with you. Jacob's in the middle of doing a 144th scale Gundam aerial rebuild kit. So that's been pushed to one side to make room for my 2 P51D Mustangs that I'm doing. I'm having a bit of a palette cleanser. Done quite a few Dunfly kits this year, or previous year, should I say. So over the Christmas break, I started a couple of P51D, which will be done. The first one's going to do the scheme from Ultimate Warbird Flights, which is Jersey Jerk. Don't know if you guys are familiar with that scheme, but it's obviously Ali.
Is that the one with the blue and red checker?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, red nose and then the blue checkers over the top. It's a great scheme. We've seen it quite a few times this year. We visited Duxford quite a bit. I think it's a brilliant scheme. You can tell it a mile off. So that's going to be one of them. And then the other, I'm going to do as the block dart from, I think it was the Airfix release from a few years ago, but I'm going to do Little Indian, which is the 2nd Air Command Group.
So with yellow nose and tail?
It's like no, it's mostly alley. It's got a bit of olive drab over the nose, and then it's got like a lightning, black lightning down the wings and down the stars, which I thought was quite cool. It's something a bit different. So I'm going to be painting quite a lot of aluminium. So it'll be interesting to see how you get on with those SMS paints, Dan, because I was looking at those at S&W, but they haven't actually taken the plunge yet. It'll be interesting to see how they get.
Well, don't forget the wings on the P51 were painted. They weren't natural metal.
No, that's right. There's like a bit more of like a, compared to the body, which is quite shiny, they're almost like a satiny type, and they're almost matte in it, aren't they?
Are there fabric surfaces on those as well?
Not sure actually.
Oh, it's all metal wing.
Not sure. Not on the wing. Maybe on the tail.
Yeah, I think the very end of the rudder, I think might be that might be fabric, but I think the rest of it's sort of standard metal. But it's just the way in which it's finished. It's almost like a matte finish on the wings, and then like I say, the body itself is like shiny aluminium. Well, there we go.
Look at Mike showing off there.
Yeah, they're a gorgeous aircraft. They really are.
Only those 2 panels. It's a mojo killer for me. Sorry. Say, every time I build an aircraft and I go to a Mustang, it kills me mojo.
Don't go to a Mustang.
Do not know what it is.
Why don't you just paint one instead of doing it silver? That might help.
Build a jug instead.
I've done them. What I mean, come on. Just 2 Airfix ones. I did a P51K, the 112 Squadron. In fact, no, it wasn't. It was, oh God, what was it called? Had yellow cowl, yellow canopy, and a yellow tail.
Old Crow?
Something special. No, something special it was called.
Is there one called Baby Doll as well? The Baby Doll. Big Beautiful Doll.
There was a Big Beautiful Doll, yeah.
That's a Duxford machine with black and white checks.
That's it. Yeah. There was one at Hendon that they had going round on a display, and it had Daffy Duck on the side of it.
Oh, right.
And that was the first time I'd ever been up close to a Mustang, and I just kept I stood there for nearly an hour looking at it. Absolutely stunning.
Here's a question for you guys. Right, on the Mustang, I read somewhere that on the wings, you know how you see everybody's got panels and all the rest of it and rivets and well, they were all filled, so you shouldn't actually see any panels.
All the panel lines and the rivets on the Mustang, I believe it was the first third of the wing, were all filled with a stopper, sanded down and then sprayed over to make it more aerodynamic.
Yeah, it's to give him the extra speed, wasn't it?
And it did make a difference.
So I'm thinking, has everybody done it wrong then?
If you've got rivets on there, most definitely.
A Dragon 32nd one is massively wrong because that is a rivet fest.
It's like on a Spitfire from the cockpit back, the rivets they weren't flush on a Spitfire because there was no need.
Okay, so we have Luke for the first time in a little while. Obviously been busy with the day job.
How's things looking on your bench?
I am back now. And yes, I did finish off the Tomcat probably about 2 weeks ago now, and that has been relatively well received, which is always a good sign. After that, it was into kind of the Christmas holidays, so not too much to report there in terms of building, but this isn't a podcast about my social drinking life, so we won't talk about that. But I have actually opened up the DAS Work Messerschmitt P1-011, I think. The weird experimental looking thing. So that has currently been on the bench. I have completed the engine for that. And it goes together very well indeed. Lots of detail. A couple of errors in the instructions, but if there's anything between your ears, you will pick up on that quite quickly. So yeah, that's kind of all I've been up to.
That paper plane to be a video subject?
Yeah. Everything I do
Cool.
gets filmed. Yeah, of course.
Luke, can I ask, mate, is that the one on the box that it's in like a warehouse?
Yeah.
So are we talking the possibility of you doing maybe a diorama?
No, it's just going to go into AI.
I thought I'd just see if we could just reel you in a little bit and get you just maybe doing a little diorama.
If I had something to put out maybe in a week or so, or like I did something over Christmas, but I was too busy. Yeah. This hopefully isn't going to the podcast, but I was too busy getting absolutely maybe if I had something in the locker, I would actually go for a diorama, but I don't, and work.
Mind you, that's not like a first timer's sort of diorama doing a full on warehouse.
But it is something which is so stupid that I'd probably do. So brilliant, I love it. But yeah, other than that, it's been unfortunately really, really boring on my end. But the Tomcat has been so well received. It's blown me flipping socks off.
Even William sat and watched it at my end as well.
Yeah. It's on there on.
No, he's got the Top Gun poster and he knows what a Tomcat is. And I told him that you'd done one and I put it on and he actually sat there and didn't even look at his phone.
What? Right.
I don't know a child that can't double screen at the moment.
Well, yeah, to be fair, that is me. I can't even sit through all of my videos, but I guess it's a bit different. But yeah.
With that, we'll take a short break and we'll come back and we'll have a look at what's in the stash inflation for this month.
Visit scalemodelpodcast.com, your hub for the best scale modelling pods, because finding great content shouldn't take longer than hunting for lost photo etch. Please support Models for Heroes, as sometimes building a scale model can help rebuild a person. Visit modelsforheroes.org.uk.
Right, as most of you will be aware, as we've been talking about it for quite some time now, the Bolton show is about to hit us in full force between the eyes. So, Wongy, Boulders, take it away. The floor is yours. Tell us all about the show, who's coming, what we can expect to see.
Right. So, I'm going to say, over to you, Boulders. Have you snidey? Right. The show's all done, all finalised. The list of traders and exhibitors can be seen on the Bolton IPMS website, which is boltonmodelclub.co.uk. That's an easy one. Right, so shall I give some stats? I would let me finish what I'm going to say. Oh, sorry, go on. So we'll stick to script. Go on. If you go onto the website, go onto the show, there's a tab for the show, click on there, and you will see all the exhibitors, all the traders, and you will see a floor map of the show for both floors, that is including the ground floor and the mezzanine, and you'll be able to guide your way all to those wonderful traders that will be there. We've got a couple, the first time in ever, of European traders attending the show. So we've got Copper State models and we've got Dynamo models that are coming from Europe. They'll be attending. So it's very well to see that we're now getting some international traders at the show.
Well, some good recognition there then, isn't it?
Right, so I'm egging to give you some stats. So, for £6, you can get in as an adult. For £4, you can get in as an OAP or even under 16, which when you look at it, OAP under 16, £4, not bad. Or for a family ticket, it's £15 or £15 to the rest of the world. Other stats, 3,000 square metres of exhibition and trader space. We've got 79 exhibitors, 42 traders, and also for the first time we have the Rail Nuts team, who, for most people who don't know, these are the guys who built this wonderful making tracks of the West Coast Main Line. And we've got the lovely Peter Waterman, who's going to do some demonstrations at their stand. What else have we got? Yes, we have the Best Tamiya Model Award as well, the Best Display Award for the tables, and the Best Model in Show Award as well. So look out, if you see us walking around and we're gazing at your models, there might be a reason for that. Generally, it's poor eyesight, but let's see where we go with that one. Boulders, in terms of the Tamiya Model Award, how do we get people to notify us that they've actually done something that's a Tamiya kit?
So, what they will need to do is they will need to use the Tamiya box art as their base. So, whether it be a 40 Spitfire, 109, Focke-Wulf, tank, if they put the top part of the box art, see what I did there, Paul, and put the model on top, then we'll know then that they have entered for the best Tamiya model in the show.
Okay, so that's great. So we do have prizes for that, and also some awards that we'll be handing out when we actually collate these things. And I do have to say it is quite a hard task to do it. So more stats, 99. The 99th Garrison, who are a Star Wars cosplay organisation, they will be attending with probably a couple of R2 units. So yeah, so they'll be patrolling for us. What else have I got? I've got new jerseys for us guys, the exec of Bolton. You'll spot us in bright yellow fleeces. We'll be walking around, probably looking lost. But if we actually look at our show brochure, we might actually know where we're going with that one then. But if you see us, come up to us, give us a shout and say hello. And we might even say hello back to you. So there you go. I think that's about it. What else have I forgotten?
There's also refreshments.
Oh, yeah.
So in the morning, there are bacon and sausage bars with tea and soft drinks. So just be warned, we have asked them to accommodate all people that will be attending, obviously with the exhibitors, because every year they run out. And this is every year that I've never been able to get a bacon butter because they run out. Because people just go in there and just ransack it. So if you want to get in there early, then do so. The doors open at 10 and the show ends at 4 o'clock.
So there you have it, people.
Also,
there you don't have it, people. Go on.
Beyond the box art will be upstairs on the mezzanine, near towards where 3D Gizmo are and the Airfix stand, because obviously with the new releases from the 2026 range that they announced on the 14th of January.
Shall I just do a quick roundup of who's coming as traders so people can bring their money?
You're going to be there for a while. It's 42 traders to reel off.
Right, start timing me. I'll do it in 2 minutes. 3D Gizmo, ABC Brushes, Affinity Models, Beyond the Box Art Podcast. Who are they? Don't know. Book World, Brooks Models, Coastal Display Bases, Copper State Models, Cosmic Fantastic, Cosmic Scale Models, Creature Features, Dynamo Models, EBMA Hobby and Craft, Falcon Aviation, Fox Hop Models. I had to put my teeth back in then. Guideline Publications, they're nice guys. IPMS UK, I like them. Craft Lighting, Lee Models and Hobbies, mainly military models. Master Club Tracks, MJR Models and Hobbies, not hospitals, hobbies. Model Art Decal Systems, Models for Sale. Hi Vince. Mr. Models, Pete Spaces, PM Store, some company called Pondstones. I like them. Riffraff Models, Scaletronics, SK Miniatures, Squires Tools, they're really good. The Crafting Well, Tiger Hobbies, hi Gary. Teridium models, tremendous. Actually, it is tremendous. War Office figures, Were models, Wildcat models, and Yanks. There you go. Was that 2 minutes?
I don't know. I fell asleep after the first word.
Oh, jeez. Let's do it again. Right. There you go, boys, girls, and kids. And hopefully we'll see you at Bolton.
Okay. And what date is it?
I can't remember.
It is the 25th of January.
There we go.
At the Tough Sheet Community Stadium.
You have to be careful how you say that.
It could be one sheet. Does plenty.
Tough Sheet does them all.
Right. And with that, back to the sponsors.
Sorry, Benchmates, but it's the Stash Inflation Report time again, where every announcement is a test of your willpower, and failure is practically guaranteed.
Right then, Benchmates, time to kick off this episode's Stash Inflation Report with a look at what's flying off the sprues. And we'll start with something that proves the RAF wasn't afraid to borrow muscle when it needed it. First up, Miniata releasing a 1-48 Republic Thunderbolt Mark 1 in Royal Air Force markings. Now, historically, the Thunderbolt is very much seen as an American brute, but early in the war, the RAF took the P-47 on charge as the Thunderbolt Mark 1. While in the United States Army Air Force, it was still refined and how best to use it. In the RAF service, it was primarily flown in the ground attack and fighter bomber role, particularly in the Far East and Southeast Asia, where its ruggedness and heavy armament were more valuable than outright range. The RAF ultimately found its less suited long-range escort work compared to the Mustang, but as a survivable, hard-hitting strike aircraft, the Thunderbolt earned a solid reputation, and it gives the RAF modelers something a bit chunkier than yet another elliptical wing. Next, AZ models are doubling down on the late Luftwaffe with two 1-72nd Bf-109G6 premium editions, one covering the Danubian users and the other JG300. The G6 is arguably the definitive Gustav. It was produced in huge numbers and became the backbone of Luftwaffe fighter force from 1943 onwards. This was an era of escalating Allied bombing, desperate defence of the Reich, and increasingly mixed pilot experience, and the G6 reflects that perfectly. JG300 in particular is fascinating. Historically, they specialised in Reich defence, often flying heavily armed interceptors, sometimes even operating under extreme conditions, like bad weather or night fighting. Meanwhile, the Danubian users option reflects how Germany increasingly relied on Allied and satellite air forces as the war dragged on, spreading the Bf-109 far beyond Germany itself. And now we come to what can only be described as Spitfire excess. Courtesy of IBG models, their 1-72nd Spitfire Mark 5B, Northwest Europe 1941-44 black box limited edition kit is not just a kit, it's a mid-war RAF career in cardboard. The Mark 5B arrived at a critical moment in what was rushed into service in 1941 to counter the Focke-Wulf FW-190. Restoring parity after the Mark 1 and the Mark II began to struggle, the B-wing allowed for a heavier cannon armament, making it a true all-round fighter, interception, escort fighter bomber, and tactical support. This version of the Spitfire served everywhere over the Channel front in offensive sweeps over France during the build-up to D-Day and deep down in the European campaign. The sheer variety of production standards, Supermarine, Castle Bromwich, Westland, is why IBG's obsessive stencil research actually matters here. IBG are also launching their Essentials line with early and late windscreen Mark 5Bs, and historically that change tells a story. Early Mark 5Bs retained the external armament windscreen and direct evolution from the Battle of Britain designs. Later aircraft integrated the bulletproof panel internally, improving pilot visibility and aerodynamics. A small detail, but one that marks the RAF's steady refinement of a design already pushed hard by wartime demands. These essential boxings strip things back to the airframe and structure, very fitting, really for an aircraft that evolved constantly under operational pressure. Jumping forward a few decades, UMA model are giving us a 1-48 AV-8B Harrier II from VMA 542, the Flying Tigers. This squadron represents the modern US Marine Corps ethos perfectly. Expeditionary, flexible, and designed to operate closer to the front line, the AV-8B proved its worth in conflicts from the late Cold War through Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Odyssey Dawn, delivering precision strike capability from short or improvised bases. The Tiger nose art isn't just for show either, it reflects a long-standing unit identity and morale tradition that is very much alive in the United States Marine Corps aviation. And finally, and this one deserves a bit of a spotlight time, ICM are releasing the 48th Handley Page Hampden TB Mark 1 due in February. The Hampden is often overshadowed by the Wellington and later the Lancaster, but early in the war it was one of Old Bomber Command's primary tools in its torpedo bomber role. He flew dangerously low-level maritime strikes, particularly with Coastal Command, attacking Axis shipping under intense fire. Slim, fast for the time, absolutely unforgiving to its crews, the Hampden represents that early war period where Britain was learning how to fight. Seeing it finally done in 48 scale is a big deal for the RAF and Coastal Command modelers. So that's it for the aviation for this episode, from early war desperation through to mid-war dominance and right into modern expeditionary air power. I'll shut the canopy, chop the wheels and hand things over to Nevs, who's been loitering around the docks as usual and eyeing up something considerably larger, wetter and armed with big guns. Nevs, you're up.
Okay, thanks, Boulders. Once again proving that aircraft models get the glamour, the jets and the attention. But folks, why settle for cotton when you can have silk? And with that, it's over to the ships. Now let's talk about Trumpeter, who appear to have decided that 2026 is the year we all give up shelf space entirely and just move into the shed. They've announced a fleet of new 1 to 350th scale ships, starting with the long-awaited Scharnhorst, the German raiding battleship, joined by her younger, but also somehow older, sister Gneisenau. Yes, confusingly, although Scharnhorst gave her name to the class, Gneisenau was laid down first and commissioned a full 7 months earlier. So technically, the younger sister arrived first, which will surprise absolutely nobody with siblings. Joining these Baltic troublemakers are USS Baltimore and USS Pittsburgh, both heavy cruisers of the Baltimore class, big, muscular US Navy cruisers that look like they mean business even when sitting quietly on your shelf. And because Trumpeter weren't finished emptying your wallet, we also get the long-awaited Nelson-class sisters with HMS Rodney and HMS Nelson, finally heading for the 1 to 350th Ship Modeller's Workbench. Yep, those Nelsons, all guns forward, all dignity left behind. Special mentions as well to USS Gearing, a late war US destroyer, armed with 6 5-inch guns in 3 twin turrets, because subtlety was clearly no longer required by that point, and USS Ranger CV-4, one of the first American aircraft carriers, which means aviation modelers may start hovering nearby looking interested. Second World War modelers have a lot to look forward to here. We don't have firm dates yet, but Scharnhorst is expected to hit shops soon, so keep an eye on the horizon, and possibly also warn your bank manager. Now, onto a manufacturer we haven't talked about before on the show, AJM Models, a Polish company well known for their waterline resin kits, who have announced 7 new ships for 2026. Yep, 7. Deep breath. Leading the charge are 2 British Revenge-class super-dreadnoughts, HMS Ramillies in a First World War configuration, and HMS Resolution in a Second World War fit. Resolution will feature 4-inch and 2-pounder pom-pom anti-aircraft guns, plus a float plane and catapult perched on the 3rd turret, because nothing says improvising at the dawn of navalation quite like that. Also joining the lineup is HMS Eagle, an aircraft carrier with a resin waterline hull and photo etch parts. So expect tweezers, swearing and strong tea to be involved. AGM aren't stopping there. Alongside the light cruiser HMS Effingham, they're also producing 3 support ships, the unsung heroes of naval operations and, frankly, of ship modelling. These are RFA Dewdale, complete with gantries overlooking the deck, absolutely crammed with landing craft, the RFA Olna, a 1944 oil tanker, and HMS Vindictive, a fleet repair ship, which is essentially a floating Have you tried turning it off and on again? Now, a note of realism. These aren't expected in the first half of the year, so you'll need patience. On the upside, it gives you time to make stash space and clear those proverbial slipways on the workbench. Next up, styling models who have announced Grimsby class sloops in 1 to 700 scale, starting with HMAS Yara. Expect crisp 3D printed details, photo etch and decals. And the good news is you won't have to wait long. The shipping is expected to begin in February. Also arriving in February is Triumph Models 1 to 350th IGN Destroyer Yagumo, marketed as 2-in-1 boxing. Likely means you'll be able to build either the 1941 configuration or the upgraded 1943 fit. Because why choose one rabbit hole when you can have two? And finally, a quick reminder that the 1 to 350th Fubuki that we talked about last year is now available for pre-order, with a release expected in the next few weeks. So yes, plenty for ship modelers to get excited about, plenty to add to the stash, and absolutely no chance of finishing everything before the next stash inflation report. Right, over to Dan for the armour releases.
Cheers, Ned. And if your stash wasn't already listing to pour after that lot, don't worry, I'm about to make sure the shelves underneath collapse as well. We'll start with figures, and a very welcome return from Stalingrad Miniatures. They've announced a brand new 135th British Infantry in Normandy 1944 big set, alongside individual figures as well. This marks the first new full figure set from Alexander Zelkov in quite some time. Set in the Normandy countryside shortly after D-Day, these figures capture British infantry in that transitional summer of 1944 period, when kit, posture and attitude all reflect men who have landed, fought and are now pushing inland. Even from the limited preview photos available, Selenkov's sculpting style is unmistakable. Natural poses, realistic proportions and figures that look like they belong in a scene rather than just placed on top of it. The release includes single figures as well as a 6-figure big set, making it ideal whether you're building a focused vignette or populating a full Normandy diorama. Next up, something with a bit more clatter and noise. ICM are bringing us the 135th SDKFZ3B with 2cm flak 38, appropriately titled Achtung, Sie fliegen. This kit includes the vehicle, the flak 38 and 4 crew members, and represents one of those increasingly desperate late-war German air defence solutions, pressing whatever chassis were available into service to counter the relentless Allied air threat. It's listed as due soon, so if mobile flak vehicles are your thing, or you just fancy something that looks busy, bristling with detail and tells a very specific battle story, this one is well worth keeping an eye on. And finally, for those of you who like your accessories large, resin, and unapologetically detailed, we head into big scale territory with Jason Studio. Jason Studio have announced a 1/16 scale M3A1 US half-track accessory set, designed specifically to fit Andy's hobby headquarters M3A1. This set has clearly been a labour of love. The project's taken a bit longer than expected, but it's now in the resin casting phase, with completion and shipping expected by the end of February. Pre-orders are planned to open in late January, and if that wasn't enough, Jason Studio have also confirmed that a 1/16 scale M3A1 half-track crew set is currently in development and will be released as soon as it's ready. If you're working in 1/16, this is one of those releases that instantly raises the bar for what's possible in the scale, and probably guarantees you'll be adding extra groundwork to your to-do list. So that's figures, flak, and full-fat resin accessories done, which means it's time to move away from the mud and metal. I'll hand things over to Shane, who's about to take us somewhere with far more parts, far sharper edges, and absolutely zero concern for historical load limits. Shane, over to you for the Gundam releases.
Cheers, Dan. Thanks for those on our releases, as if we needed any more temptation in that scale. Right, I'll take it from here and round out this episode with Mecha Mayhem. First up, something a little different and a bit of a statement piece. DLK Hobby are stepping into the spotlight, their very first 100 scale model kit. The ZAW S01, and they're not easing in gently. 1,030 parts. The design is bold, sharp, with aggressive armor lines, a dynamic silhouette, and a solid internal structure that has clearly been designed with posing and self-presence in mind. For a debut kit, this is a confident move. Original design, high part count, very much aimed at builders who fancy something beyond the usual Gundam. It lands early March, pre-orders are open until they're gone, and the damage to your wallet is £95. Up next, and this one will get the Transformer fans leaning forward. Third-party company, Rising Force, have shared grey prototype images of their full-on Cybertron Compicons, including the big lad himself, Bruticus. We're looking at War for Cybertron styling here, with individual bots standing between 14 and 17 centimeters each. Scale to play nicely with Generations and Chug collections. Both robot and alt modes are shown, and the sculpt looks spot on, very faithful to the game designs. But the headline act is the combined mode. Bruticus stands 31 centimeters tall, looks properly imposing, and yes, he can reconfigure his right arm into a full-on cannon. No confirmed price or release date yet, but if you've got a weakness for combiners, this is one to firmly keep on your radar. Third on the bench, something compact, chunky, and surprisingly serious. The Chengdao model TGM Tang Wei is a master-grade, super-deformed style mecha kit, standing about 14 centimeters tall, but don't let the size fool you. This thing has presence. Designed by Zen of Collectible, Tang Wei combines a super-deformed style with sharp mechanical detailing, layered armor, and a heavy armor backpack. Inside is a sturdy internal frame with die-cast metal parts, so it's got real weight and holds dynamic poses without complaint. Loads of articulation, plenty of weapons, and enough detail to look great straight out the box. Painting optional, but temptation inevitable. At £25, this is a cracking little centerpiece for an SD or MGSD style collection, or a very dangerous, just one more kit purchase. And finally, we're finishing strong, very strong. The Motor Nuclear MNP XH15 Lubu from the Legend of Star General series. 1/100 scale monster. Scheduled release is for March. Once built, Lubu stands at 25.5 centimeters tall with a hybrid construction of ABS and POM plastics wrapped around a zinc alloy die-cast inner frame, giving it serious weight and stability. Weapon-wise, you get an 8-sided cloud-slaying bow, cloud-striking arrows, a cloud thunder crossbow, and an 8-sided halberd, plus 10 pairs of interchangeable hands. Multiple connectors, and frankly, an excessive selection of display bases and clear action stands. Estimated price is £85, with regional arrivals expected anywhere from April to June, assuming you've got shelf space. And that, Benchmates, is where Shane steps away from the catalogue, gently closes the wallet, and immediately opens another tab. That's it for the Gundam and Mecha side of this month's Stash Inflation Report. Brace yourselves, hide your credit cards, and remember, we're only a couple of weeks into the New Year's resolution to cut back. Yeah, I only managed a few days, but there's always 27 to try again.
Right then, Benchmates, as Airfix announced the 2026 range the day before this episode dropped, we've jumped on, so get ready. This is an update to the Stash Inflation Report. This isn't a release list, this is a carefully curated assault on your disposable income, mixing brand new tools with kits that haven't seen the light of day since some of us had hair. So, the big headliners. Let's start with the heavy hitters. 124th Grumman F6F-5 Hellcat returns, last released in 2019, now with 4 brand new decal schemes, because if you're building something that big, you may as well have to build it twice.
Exciting bit, Airfix are releasing a 1/48 McDonnell Douglas FG1 Phantom. No issue here, this is ground up new kit. British Phantom fans, your wait is now finally over.
The 1 to 48 English Electric Lightning F6. This was last seen in 2015. It's now back with a website exclusive collector's coin, just to make sure that you buy it directly from Airfix.
Also back 148th Sepcat Jaguar, this time the 2-seat variant, the T2 and T4 with the new nose section. So a proper twin-stick Jag at last.
Next up, 1 to 48 Western Sea King HAR3, no compromise, and yes, yellow paint stocks will now mysteriously vanish worldwide.
And now we're moving on to Cold War and RAF royalty. Airfix are very clearly in a very RAF mood this year. Starting off with a 1 to 72nd English Electric Canberra B2. This is a new toolkit. It'll be replacing the kits that have been doing the rounds for decades.
Also back is the 172nd Avro Shackleton in the AEW2 and MR2 configuration with new decal schemes.
Next up, 1 to 48 Bristol Blenheim Mark 1F, returned after its 2020 release, now refreshed with new markings.
The 1 to 48 de Havilland Vampire F3 with new decals. This was last out as recently as 2023, but it is still popular and still selling.
And the 148th line completing with a Ferry Gannet AS1 and AS4 rebox with 4 new schemes to keep the Fleet Air Arm fans busy.
New tools and long absent favourites in 1 to 72nd scale. Airfix have gone deep into the archive. First up, Junkers JU52/3M G4E, which is a new tool.
And then for a Japanese Army Air Force fans, we've got the Mitsubishi KI-46-2 Dina. This kit was last released in 2012.
Next up we have a Lockheed F117A Nighthawk, last out in 2006 with a very interesting grey scheme from Edwards Air Force Base.
Next up is Avro 504K, and nice to see an interwar aircraft reappearing, last released in 2005.
And for any fans of the Battle of Midway, we've got the Douglas SBD Dauntless 3/5. This kit was last released in 2012.
And for those that like their aircraft on the water, so this should be right up Nev Street, the consolidated PBY-5A Catalina is coming back out, last seen in 2013.
Up Nakajima B5N2 Kate, last released on its own in 2016 with a club edition in 2020.
And we're going to be seeing the Curtis P40B Warhawk. This kit was last out in 2021.
Next up, the Grumman F4F-4 Wildcat, last released again in 2021.
Next up, North American B25B Mitchell, last released in as recently as 2023.
The North American F86F/EM Sabre. This kit was last seen in 2014.
And final for this section, the short Skyvan's coming back, last seen in 2002, which will give you the option to download 2 STL files so you can make a multi-bladed modern version of the Skyvan.
Right then, Armour and AFV's British Steel returns, and for those of you who prefer tracks and tyres, first up, 1 to 35th Alvis FV603 Saracen Mark 5, complete brand new tool.
And hot on the heels of the 2025 Stalwart release, we've got the 1 to 35th Stalwart Mark II Limber.
Next up, we have the 135th Cromwell Mark 7 and Mark 6 CS updated with new parts, and this was last released in 2021.
So next up is a vintage classic. It's a 1 to 76 Saracen APC Mark 1/2/3, last out in 2008.
And continuing with the vintage classics range, the 1 to 76th Chieftain Tank. This was last released in 2005.
Also in 76, the Centurion Mark 8, last out in 2008.
Next up, 1 to 76 Matilda Mark II. This was last released in 2018.
Next, we have the 176th Leopard 1 tank. This hasn't been seen since 1983.
Also, 176 Vickers Light Tank Mark 6, last out in 2013.
And lastly for this section, 1 to 76 Crash Recovery Set, last released in 2012.
And now on to some more vintage classics. This is where we go into full nostalgia mode, and it's where Airfix fully commits to chaos. Starting with Romans and Ancient Britons, these are 2 figure sets being re-released in 1 to 76.
Also out is a Roman fort and figure set, last released in 1993.
Also coming out is the Robin Hood figures, last seen out in 2008.
Accompanying these, we've got the Sheriff of Nottingham set. This was last seen in 2008.
And we have the Robin Hood Sherwood Castle set, last seen in 1993.
Next up now for some 30-second vintage classics, we've got the World War II British Infantry Support set. This was last out in 2010.
And a nice accompaniment to your support team, you've got the 30-second scale World War II British Commando set. These were last seen in 2009.
And also in 32nd, we've got the World War II German Mountain Troops, last seen in 2010.
Now we're going to move on to ships and hovercrafts with some naval mayhem thrown in for good measure. Naval modelers haven't been forgotten either by Airfix. The first release coming up is the 1:144 scale SRM4 hovercraft, which was last seen and released in 2002.
And we're once again seeing the heavy cruiser HMS Suffolk in 1/600th scale. This was last seen in 2011.
Also in 1/600th, we have the HMS Cossack, which was last released as a single kit in 1973, but was included in a gift set in 2001.
Next up is probably one of the most famous battleships in the fleet, is the 1/600 HMS Nelson, last out in 2005.
And a good shelf accompaniment for the Nelson, 1/600th HMS King George V. This was last seen in 2011.
Also in 1/600th, we have the Prince Eugen, last released in 2013.
And to accompany the Prince Eugen, we've got the 1/600 Scharnhorst, which was last released in 1983.
And then going back in time, several centuries in fact, we have the 1/180th HMS Prince. This kit hasn't been seen since the 1990s.
So now we move on to the gift sets and special packs. So if you want additional multiple stash inflation in one go, in multiple boxing. So first of the multi-boxes is the Pearl Harbor 85th Anniversary gift set, which includes a P40, the Kate and a Zero.
For the space aficionados is the One Small Step for Man gift set. This has everything in the box to create that historical moment of when man stepped on the moon.
And now to mark the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Denmark Straits, we have the 1/1200th Sink the Bismarck gift set. This was last released in 2012. It will include the battleship Bismarck, its accompaniment Prince Eugen, and then from the Royal Navy we've got the Ark Royal, the Hood, Suffolk and 2 tribal class destroyers.
And finally, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Swedish Air Force, we have a multiple box set, which includes the Draken, the J-28C Vampire, the Spitfire S-31, we have the Mustang J-26 and the Gladiator J-8, all in a box, all in 72nd.
Next up, we have multiple Eurofighter and Legacy aircraft twin packs. So first set contains the Eurofighter Typhoon in the genus scheme, along complement with a Hawker Hurricane. Next up is the Eurofighter Typhoon Mogger with a Hawker Typhoon Mark 1B. And lastly, we have the famous Blackjack Eurofighter Typhoon with a Tucano T1, all in 72nd scale.
And then for the 1/48th Legend series, we've got a Douglas Barder triple pack. Now this includes the Bristol Bulldog that Barder flew in 1931, the Hurricane Mark 1 that he flew at the Battle of Britain September 1940, and the Spitfire Mark 2A, which he flew in 1941.
In addition to all the kits, Airfix are also increasing massively the masking set range with a whole raft of new additions. So we start off in 48th with the Avro Anson Mark 1. In 72nd, the Avro Lancaster. In 72nd, also in 1/72nd scale, the Messerschmitt ME410 A-1 and A-3. In 48th, the Western Sea King. In 72nd, the mask set for the new Ju-52 3 MG4E. In 48th, the Ju-87B/R Stuka. In 48th, the Sepcat Jaguar for both the GR1 and the T2 variants. Also in 72nd, the B-17G Flying Fortress. In 148th, the Bristol Blenheim Mark 1. In 72nd, the Heinkel 111P/H. In 48th, the McDonnell Douglas Phantom F4. In 72nd, the Boeing Chinook. In 124th, the Grumman Hellcat. And in 172nd, the Bristol Beaufort. In addition to the aircraft, there's also a set for the 135th Alvis Stalwart. So there you go, accessories as well as kits. I don't think anyone can complain at the comprehensive range that Airfix are releasing for this year.
Are you looking for top quality paints for your next project? Then look no further than the Scale Modeler Supply. Hi, I'm Scott, and as a passionate modeler myself, I've spent years creating the SMS product range, designing them specifically with a scale modeler in mind. We've worked extensively to develop our acrylic lacquer paint range to not only be airbrush ready straight out of the bottle, but also to be very easy to use so that anyone of any skill level can create professional results with minimal effort. Just give the bottle a good shake, pour into your airbrush and spray at 15 psi. So dive into your next project with confidence, knowing that you're backed by one of the finest hobby paints on the market. Head over to our website scalemodeler.com.au to check out our full range and to find your closest retailer.
Fischkopp Models, elevating scale modeling to an art form. Experience highly detailed 3D printed upgrade parts that bring true authenticity to your builds. Creators of the acclaimed Rolls-Royce Merlin engine set for both the Kotari Spitfire and the Dambusters set for the border models Avro Lancaster. For bespoke design and printing, our service is as precise as it is personal, all at a reasonable price. Please take a look at our products on www.fischkoppcompany.de. Shipping is available for all of our products worldwide.
Right then, Benchmates, joining us on the show today is one of our sponsors, Christopher Mercer, the owner and driving force behind Fischkopp Model Company. Christopher brings a seriously rare blend of skills to the modelling world. He's a trained aircraft mechanic, so accuracy, structure and real-world engineering aren't just buzzwords for him, they're hardwired. Add to that his background as a 3D designer, and you've got someone who understands not only how aircraft look, but how they actually work. That combination has helped Fischkopp carve out a reputation for pushing boundaries in scale, detail and ambition, tackling subjects and engineering solutions that most companies wouldn't dare touch, whether it's complex internal structures, large-scale power plants, or simply raising the bar on what we expect from modern kits. Christopher is very much a modeler solving modeler problems. But we're also joined by Carl Robertshaw, a gifted scale modeler whose work is turning heads across the community. Carl's stunning 132nd Qatari Spitfire 1, equipped with a Fischkopp model engine, isn't just a showcase of craftsmanship. It featured in the January edition of Tamiya magazine, and it was awarded the prestigious Airscale Trophy at Scale Model World last November for its exceptional detail and execution. Whether you're here for meticulous builds, next-level finishing techniques, or inspiration on what's possible when passion meets precision, Carl's journey and approach to modelling are sure to fascinate. So we're also diving into how he brought this remarkable Spitfire to life, the choices behind his techniques, and what fuels his drive to push boundaries in our hobby. So it's a bit of an experiment to see how having both the manufacturer and end user in the same interview goes. But gentlemen, welcome. So Carl, what drew you to the Qatari 132nd Spit as a foundation for this project, and at what point did you decide to take it further with a full Merlin conversion?
Well, it's an interesting question because I started really going, we just mentioned it a minute ago when we were doing it chit-chat, and started with this Lancaster doing a Dambuster diorama, which was a long 10-year itch to scratch. Obviously, Hong Kong were coming out with their kit, and then when that ones were going to come out with theirs, so entering a long wait with COVID, and then Border taking on the kit and so on. And as I was doing it, building it for Telford on Instagram, this company were doing a conversion kit for the Dambuster, and I messaged them. It turned out to be Chris, who we've got on the call today, and just with a few weeks to spare, he sent over the prototype of the Bombay and the Eldest lights and so on. And it blew me away, the fact that these little hinges were working in 1/32 scale and the fidelity that he had on the inside and the outside. And obviously we've continued to chat since, and I've been over to Germany and we've done a model show there together. And he sent me, if you like, a kind of challenge, an invite, as it were, to build the Qatari Spitfire with this exposed engine. And I wasn't really in the market for building a Spitfire, but at Telford I picked up the model, and Chris had already sent me the Rolls-Royce Merlin as well. So just looking at the parts, it was pretty impressive. And this was the prototype of the 3D print. So I was like his guinea pig in a way. So that's how I think Chris and the kit chose me rather than the other way around. I'm always up for a challenge, and yeah, took this on, and it was quite an impressive dive into something very fine indeed, like the engine bearers at scale. So the way that this thing connects, the engine bearers connect to the firewall, is just insane, and there's a lot of detail involved, but there's also a lot of scope for doing some more super detailing as well, which is the road that I went down.
So the Lancat that we're talking about, is this the one dropping the actual bouncing mine?
Yes. Yeah. So it's the diorama. So it's with the resin water. It's 40 kilos of resin. So yeah, it's
I mean, how many people did it take to lift it?
2.
Right.
So yeah, so it's quite an undertaking to take on that kit. I still have it, and I'm looking for a museum to take it on. So if anybody's out there and has contacts, great. It's taking up a lot of space in storage, but we're not here to talk about that. We're about the more recent endeavour from Fischkopp. So yeah, it's quite an amazing sort of follow-up, if you like, from the Dambuster conversion kit to the Merlin engine, which is even more detailed and very fine and very small, but there's a lot more work involved in that.
Well, just quickly, going back to the museum, have you spoken to Brooklands?
I've not, no. So
because they've obviously got Barnes Wallace's office as an exhibit exactly set out as it was at the time of the upkeep.
Amazing. That would be great.
So that would be a perfect home for it.
Carl, the Fischkopp company Rolls-Royce Merlin is a centerpiece. So what were your first impressions when you actually opened the set?
It's quite blown away because the engine itself is pretty complete in terms of all the wiring that's there, just the detail involved. And then you've got the framework and things like all the pipe work is extra to it as well. But the wiring, just the fidelity of the wires that are printed in that gives you an idea of how.
Is it a case of how did they do that?
Literally, and I've worked with 3D prints from different companies, and with my work, I've worked with 3D prints as well, but this is on a whole other level. This is microscopic printing, so I don't know how Chris is doing it. It's either high risk and he's got a lot of failures and can send you the good ones, or he's just got a very brilliant way of engineering and a brilliant way of doing the printing as well, a good printer, and just the knowledge behind it. So yeah, so it's the engine block itself, which was the thing that really blew me away, because I've built the Hiya Spitfire, obviously, which is in my cabinet, and that was one of the first ones I did many years ago. But the detail in that is incredible. But of course, you've got a lot of parts that you're putting together. Whereas when you've got a 3D print, it's printed as one thing, so it's picked up as your biggest job, really. And the way that the tactical points fit to this is really clean as well. So it is a modeler building for modelers.
So did it actually have any issues in terms of you looking at it and saying, right, how am I going to paint this bit?
Yes. Yeah. And also, how am I going to fit it together? Because like I said about the engine bearers, they broke a few times, which is me being clumsy, and they are so fine and fit and at scale. So having this resin block basically fitting into that and having it hanging out front, and also getting the firewall to fit into the plastic kit as well, and having to do the modification for that takes quite a lot of work and a lot of dry fitting, obviously, to make it sure it works. But the sanding, getting the plastic thin enough as well, is quite a is half the trick, if you like. So it's not a drop fit in that sense. There's quite a lot of work to do. So it is for somebody who's really experienced and is up for the challenge. But once you've taken on that challenge, if you like, then you're into some very fine tolerances, and you're working with things that are very fine tolerance. And just seeing the kit in itself, like the frame for the
cowling. That is, I put that in a few people's hands and they just couldn't believe it because it's just such a very thin, what are kind of metal bands with the rivet fasteners. This is at scale as well. And just that, you put that in somebody's hand, they just don't believe that that exists. And that sitting on the model is the kind of final framework that goes on at the very end when you're holding your breast in place. That's quite a feat of engineering to both produce and to get it together, and then painting all of it. You've got optivisors, you've got not a super fine brush, but you're getting into the very fine detail and down to the Rolls-Royce logo, doing a dry brush on that brings that out. Is it a red logo? Is it a white? Was it black? There's all of those questions come into play as to...
But when you got that engine and you was terrified of going anywhere near it, weren't you?
A little bit. And also, how am I going to up detail it as well? How am I going to build all the extras into between the firewall and the engine as well? Because I thought this is worth the extra effort, because it's, I want to test my skills as well. So this is a place where you've got a kit which is very buildable, relatively few number of parts these days for a sort of Uber kit, if you like. This is a way to kind of get this state-of-the-art sort of benchmark plastic model up to a level that is, well, as realistic as possible in miniature. So building a lot of the extra pipe work in was really key for me. You don't have to do that because it's still very detailed in itself, but yeah, to get it as authentic as possible, this is the best way to go about it.
What do you think for a future project for the Cotard engine? Shall I do it in separate parts, like 4 to 5, or shall I leave it as one?
That's a good question.
From a painter's point of view, it'd be 4 or 5 bits.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then you get a separation with the different, and also you could probably build it then as a kind of broken down something in a workshop, that type of thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was thinking, as I've got the camshafts for the Merlin engine, the Daimler-Benz, of course, they are slightly different, but I was thinking about getting them into the engine as well, so the modeler actually can decide if he wants to put the lid on or off.
That would be brilliant.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. And you sent me the open camshaft as a very early example of what you could do after you sent me the Dambuster stuff. And I've shown that to a few people as well. And their jaws just drop on the floor. It's, it's brilliant that you can have that idea as well, be able to produce at that level of detail. And as we've gone through the process, as you sent me the Merlin, that was the first one. That was the prototype. So I'm your guinea pig in that sense. And we've talked through about how you've made it better since then as well. It was good then, but you're able to change one-on-one, basically. You're not committing to producing hundreds or thousands. You're producing one at a time, and then you can improve it, which is the advantage of 3D printing, which is...
Yeah.
If you do that though, Christopher, you're going to have to do some figures, mechanics, somebody who's actually going to be there taking the parts off and doing work on it with the cylinder heads off, with the rocker covers off.
I'm actually trying to get into the figure business, but with all the projects currently I'm working on, it's just an idea until now.
Yeah, I think most modelers know exactly where you're coming from, because we want to build everything we've got in our stash, but you're just not going to do it. You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm one of these that's not got 1 or 2 or 25 or 30. I've probably got a couple of thousand that I've amassed over the years.
Yeah. I'm still rising, I guess.
Still buying.
But not only figures, you're going to need to look at a way of engineering workshop equipment. So toolboxes with suitable tools to scale.
Yeah.
Because most of the stuff that you can get commercially with the figures, your spanner is around about a foot thick when you scale it up.
I think Minicraft have got that covered in that scale. I think they're pretty good in, is it Minicraft or ICM?
They're in 35th rather than 32nd.
Who's going to know? Imperial and metric, isn't it?
Chris, one of the points that Carl made was about the pipework on the engine block, in how easy was it to produce it and actually manufacture it without having lots of failures. And also, is there a way to actually easily have it as a separate, to make it easier to paint?
You said I didn't have any failures.
Yeah, you could sort of say, how many went in the bin?
1 in 10.
Yeah. I would say even more. Carl mentioned the framing for the cowling, which is very, very thin. But as soon as we removed it from the sprue, so to say, it's actually nice to work with. But I had so many failures on it that I actually was thinking about giving up. But at the end of the day, I bought a new printer. I think it was 12K, so quite high quality. And it was possible to produce thin stuff like that. So the pipework actually was easy compared to the framing for the cowling. Yeah, but
Typical cables that are on the side of the engine are just so hairline thin.
yeah,
That's the bit that blew me away. It's like a cat's whisker.
yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, when I was taking mine off of the runner, I actually managed to slice through it because I couldn't actually see the pipe with all the supports on the block.
Yeah, okay.
That was my issue, that I couldn't actually see the damn thing when I was trying to take it out.
Yeah.
As it was so fine.
Christopher, are you ever going to produce any cowlings to go back on there if you just wanted to say that the top off or engine on show?
I don't think that I'm going to touch the Spitfire engine again, because I designed it for the cowlings from Kutari to fit.
Oh, okay.
So actually the modeler could thin them down and then use them and just put them aside and lay them on the floor with the bottom side downwards, for example. But for the Mercer Schmidt engine, I'm going to provide cowlings this time. But that is due to the fact that if you lower the bottom cowling, then it swings actually, and in reality, you had to disconnect something from the engine before you actually could swing the cowling free. So yeah, I'm going to do them for the Kutari engine, but...
Are you looking at producing the engine version for the recently announced 109E as well as the K?
I guess so. I have to take a proper look into the difference between the DB601. I think they are just slightly different and could be easily achieved, so that to get a whole new kit out, that would only involve a small part of redesigning.
And because Chris, what that will be is a great partner for the Spitfire then.
Okay, maybe.
And of course, the other obvious thing is the Merlin with a different frame for the cowling, I should imagine would actually fit onto the Hurricane, which is coming as well.
Guess what? I visited my parents a couple of days ago, obviously for Christmas. I found my old Revell 1:32 scale Hurricane Mark I still in the box. So I'll try to get a fitment ready for the release. So starting the design work quite shortly after the Messerschmitt engine. And as soon as I receive the kit from Kutari, I hope for the best. That's only slight differences, and then the release should be shortly after the release from Kutari.
Okay, so we're looking at obviously the firewall and the front section of the spar.
Yeah.
The same for the Hurricane as you've actually provided for the Spitfire.
Yeah.
So it then goes on to my next question for Carl. You said in the actual fitting for the kit, you had to thin down the fuselage quite markedly. Was there any other areas that you need to look at? I.e., can you see inside the wing roots with the engine in frame? Did you have to do any work in there?
Yeah, because this was a prototype and we were looking at how it would fit as well. So me being the kind of mechanic sort of guinea pig test engineer, if you like. And so we discovered that the pipe work that runs inside the wing root actually needed to be, I had to cut mine, but Chris has modified it since to fit. And what I did was add a little bit of framework within that as well. So if you could see inside the wing roots, then you would get a glimpse into what would be the wing structure. But actually it's so busy with the framework and with the engine being in the way, you don't see that at all. The air intake that's underneath as well, that part needed to be cut. And what else do you need to be trimmed down? Something else as well.
The frame 5 actually, the hinges for the wing.
Yes, exactly. And the wing spar, which forms part of the sort of undercarriage framing in the kit. And I had to thin that down, so that meant that the undercarriage legs didn't quite go in as they're designed to as the Kutari kit. So I had to cut quite a bit off those sort of plugs, as it were. Also the engine, the exhaust stubs as well, getting the kit exhausts to fit through the cowling framework into the thing as well. Obviously, this is the first time I'm building it for the first time and sending some feedback back to Chris. And what I did was pin those, and it took a little bit of fettling and shaving, just with very fine. I've got these Infini model the sanding sticks, which are really small. They're great. And just using those between the sort of, what do you call it? Just the little catchment areas, so that basically it would fit around the exhaust framework as well. So yeah, getting all of those delicate parts sandwiched in with the exhaust stubs is quite a neat sort of, when you get it, it's a really, really good success moment. But to get there, it takes quite a little bit of work. So yeah.
Was that the kit exhaust, or was that the Qatari 3D printed exhaust?
So the kit exhaust, so the plastic exhausts.
Right. Because obviously Qatari now actually do a 3D print exhaust as well.
Of course they do now, but yeah, it's always the case, isn't it? After you've done the first one, you struggle with it, and then, the easy version comes out afterwards.
Carl, what colour is that green you've used on the framing?
Oh, it's kind of a mixed by eye type of thing.
So that green is like normal as a modeler. I would just usually spray interior green over that. So that's obviously different from interior green.
So this is a conversation I had with Peter from Airscale, and what I tend to go for, it turns out what I tend to go for is something that looks sort of correct in a photographic sense, as it were. So like I built Robin Earl's Phantom years ago, and Vietnam Phantom, I know that, so that it looked like the photographs of the era, as it were. So it's not necessarily correct in terms of paint color and things like that. So
you wouldn't recognize it now.
No, exactly. Yeah.
I saw it a couple of years ago. I was up as well. It's at Pima, isn't it?
And so it will be a cockpit green, but it will be something that's got a little bit of a
pea green.
Well, the other thing to remember, Mark, is that as in the Qatari instructions, there's not only the interior green, but there's also a supermarine green, which they tell you how to do it. So you need to actually look at the Qatari instructions, because at the different phases of the Spitfire production in the early days, different parts in different factories were actually using different paint, and a Supermarine had a supermarine green that they used, which was different from cockpit green.
And that's quite a bright green as well, part green almost. So this mix I've got here, which is XF71, and it's lightened with XF21 Sky. So it is a cockpit green that's then lightened. So it looks a bit more faded. So I guess it gives it more of a scale effect.
Yeah, which is very similar to how Luke Flynn does his models. Is basically it's painted for scale effect rather than paint straight out of the bottle. Anyway.
And I tend to do paint colours by eye as well. So, yeah.
So, Dan, that actually brings us on to a good point for your question.
Brownie, have you got somebody snoring next to you?
Yes, Harry. The dogs, they're asleep behind now, thankfully.
Yes, Carl, this is interesting question, because it's a road that I'm going to be going down soon with the 32nd scale Spitfire that I have. And I was wondering, what sort of reference material did you rely on to ensure the installation of the Merlin and all of the surrounding systems and stuff were historically and mechanically accurate? I mean, I know there's the whole museum question, where people say, don't trust what you see in a museum, but surely an engine, a Spitfire, has to run with the correct components in it.
Well, this is something, because in the conversation with Chris early on, this was the thing of, I was asking him, which engine are you modeling this from? Because in the research, there are so many different versions of this Merlin. It is a bit of a minefield. I'm trying to remember what I did. I think I found some technical drawings, and I sent them to you, Chris. And
yeah.
I can't remember if she's confirmed whether they were the right ones or not, but there is some, it might have.
It's actually regarding the Merlin marks, I would say, or numbers, depends on what Merlin engine you're looking at. At the very beginning, the single stage engines been designed as a model very often. So you only have, like for the Mark 5B, for example, or later marks of the Spitfire, they had, except for the 5B, double stage or twin stage Merlin, but they are very similar at the front. So like cylinder heads, stuff like that. So you actually just have to take a look at from my point of view and my research, from the rear part of the Merlin, and take a look at that and see what equipment was installed and what stage of, or single stage or double or two-stage supercharger was installed, and the carburetor, of course. But that is quite a lot of research that needed to be done.
I'm just looking through my photos here, so the reference photos I've found, and there are some original, this is online and I don't know where I got them from, but there are some recolored photographs of the original Mark I Spitfires in the workshop.
Did you know Haynes Manuals did one on the Merlin?
Probably, yes. I've seen the book on the internet, but I've bought another Haynes manual and it wasn't very informative, I would say.
I suppose the ideal reference would be not something that's sitting on a display stand in a museum. It will be something that's fitted to a flying Spitfire with the oil all over it, and that's got to be a first point of reference, surely.
I think that the problem with a lot of the stuff that's in museums, Dan, is the fact that it's probably not got the original engine that was in it, or it's been something that's flown in the film Battle of Britain, and now it doesn't fly anymore, and all kinds of stuff has gone on over the years. It might even have different wings, all sorts, all kinds of things.
The real problem with the flying Spits is they're actually using materials these days that are actually compliant with the modern day regulation rather than what was actually used during World War II.
Yeah.
So if it's a flying Spitfire, I wouldn't personally take that as reference at all, because there's different materials been used. So you've got stainless steel gum coating on some pipes, which wouldn't have had it during the war and things of that nature. So if you go to somewhere like the Imperial War Museum, they had a stock of engines in their store at Rawton, down near Swindon, which most people will know if they watch the Grand Tour as the Ebola Drome. They had crates and crates of brand new engines unused, and those are the ones that mostly went on display. So I would take those that are in a museum as statics as probably being more indicative of the ones that were used during the war.
Wow.
Rather than the ones which are actually in operation today.
Yeah.
But the point you made about where oil leaks are, yes, look at the ones which are flying, because where the oil comes out of an engine today, it's exactly the same place as the oil used to come out of back in the day. But for colour accuracy, I wouldn't use a flying aircraft as an example.
You know, you mentioned them engines there, Brownie, though. Wouldn't they have been snapped up by the people that are still flying them?
The Imperial War Museum won't release them. The Science Museum won't release them. There was a brand new Focke-Wulf 190 engine in a crate, 0 hour, all the paperwork. And the Science Museum decided they actually wanted to dissect it and put it on display rather than actually swap it for a time-expired engine.
Yeah, I remember being at Fantasy, the flights in Florida, Kermit Weeks' place, and he was telling a story of his engine guy finding somewhere where there was a load of P40 engines, the Ellison engines for sale, and there was like 50 odd of them, all brand new, all crated up, and he was only allowed, he bought 20, which probably would have been a pretty penny. But while we were there as well, he was actually showing us these Wasp engines that were in an oil drum full of wax. Obviously, you can't see anything. It's all in solid wax kind of thing. And then they light a fire under it. This lot melts away, and there you are with it. And it showed, these also had one out that was on show, and it was amazing. It really was amazing to see.
Most of the engines that were in store for the museums were actually covered in a wax paper, for want of a better term. So literally a grease was applied over all the components, and then you had this wax paper which put over, which basically put it in almost like a cocoon. Then you were inside a temperature or a humidity controlled crate. So there was a lot of preservation on those things. So the amount of corrosion you had on those sort of things is minimal. But anyway, we digress as we normally do in these conversations. So yes, Carl, you were saying about accuracy. Were there any books in particular you used as reference, or was it just photographs you found online?
I couldn't find any good reference material in books, weirdly, but online. And there were quite a few crashed aircraft as well, which were quite good, going through their sort of various states of like dissection, as it were, out in the field, which was good information there as well. I think you have to go with a generic idea of what it is, but then also hone down specific elements, details and so on, and that will get you as close as you possibly can. And after all, it's pieces of plastic and cables and so on, and this is life in miniature. It's not the actual real thing as well, so it doesn't have to depend. For me, it doesn't have to be exactly right. It doesn't have to have the right number of rivets, for instance, but but to get it as close to is really important. So it's believable.
It'd be great to have a few colour shots from the time, eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't it just? But hey ho. Okay then, nerves.
To find a question that's not already been answered, the only, Carl, one of the things I was thinking, especially with Chris sending you the prototype engine, is that's just such an RJ Mitchell thing to do, isn't it? With doing the Spit, but that was really interesting. Along that line of conversation, when you were building the Spitfire, were there any moments during the build where the engineering of the actual aircraft and all of your research into it genuinely surprised you once you were exposing all of those parts? I've seen the pictures. It is a stunning build. You're obviously going into such depths of research, both you and Chris, when it comes to the Merlin. And I know we can all be up close and sort of personal with these engines. Were there any things that you were finding behind the scenes, particularly with that engine block, that you thought, oh, I wouldn't have thought they'd have built the engine block that way? Or
maybe if I answer it this way, it's kind of, I was surprised that I didn't realize that there was such variation in, especially with Mark 1 Spitfires, that there's such variation in the engines. And in terms of all of that reference material that we were talking about, how it can vary and how you can get very misled with like modern engines and the reference material of music and flying aircraft now, where there's lots of bright colours in there with pipework and so on, and the electrics, and there's a lot more going on than obviously what were originally. And it was slightly distracting, and it was a real sort of needle in a haystack to find the right reference photos and stick to those, and then use the other ones as kind of backup. I think also what another answer to maybe not your question, but the way that the kit is designed, even though it's not got a huge number of parts, even like the way that the wings are molded, where they've got the kind of rib structure within the wings themselves. So you know how the plastic comes out of a mold and it has a slight, not oil cannon, but has a slight variation in the surface texture, the way that kind of it mimics, the plastic mimics the ribbing that way as well. And having done the Lancaster, for instance, with the oil canning on, that level of detail in a model production sense is incredible, because it gives you such a good canvas, as it were, to work on. What I wanted to do was honour that with the engine as well and go down that deep dive route, as it were. And this isn't a 4-engine bomber that's got a metre wingspan that I'm having to redo all the rivets on the rear end, for instance, and using 40 kilos resin. That project's been done. So in a way, this was a much easier one. But saying that, it took a few months to do the engine, and that's a model in itself. And then that was on hold for about 9 months. And then I did the rest of the kit and inserting the engine finished, as it were, with the firewall into the plastic. And that's where you get that kind of kit within a kit type of project. So yeah, so I tend to I lose mojo quite a bit. So I'll do a stint and then I'll not do anything for like maybe a whole summer or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How long did it actually take you then?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm quite a slow builder. Like one kit once took me 3 years, and that's like the Phantom that I mentioned.
So what's your like nightly plan? Do you go and have an hour most nights at the bench, or is it just as and when you feel like it?
No, I mean, I'm freelance. So if I have a job on, I'm 24/7 on that, and that'll be for the length of the project, the work project. That's my job. So working in live events, and then what I'll often do is either carve out time. So I might do every morning for a few weeks, or I might do 8 to 12 hours a day, for instance, for a few weeks, and then do nothing for a few months. So I'm not like a regular hour. So I go fix, a bit more of a sort of tennis player, going fits and starts kind of thing. So I'll do a burst of work, as it were, on it, and then I'll disappear and I'll go off the way, as it were, and go.
How do you go on then when there are moments where everything's going really well? And whenever I get that kind of really good feeling about something, all I want to do is crack on with it. Do you go through that?
Just go with it. Yeah, go with it. Yeah, when if it's not working, just leave. Just put it all down. Yeah, like my airbrushes, they hadn't been used for months and months and months, and had to give them a good service before getting them back up and running again. But yeah, there's dust on everything for a while, and then you get back up and running, and then you're on it. And like the Lancaster took, what was it? It was something like 6 weeks. So the base took 2 years. The kit itself took 6 weeks, but I was doing 22 hours a day.
Yeah, that was a tight schedule, yeah.
Yeah, just a bit. But yeah.
Oh, so you really cracked on with that one then?
Yeah, so 22-hour days in the last week before Telford. Yeah, I don't do an hour, every day kind of thing. I'll be a bit more kind of
like a student cramming at the end.
I don't know. I mean, the Spitfire, for instance. So doing the engine, that was a real kind of project within a project. So the engine itself was just a lovely way to get tucked into the detail and get into that. And that was like reading a book with short paragraphs and short chapters, for instance. It's a relatively digestible short chapter, and then the kit itself is also that as well, because you're not caught in hundreds and hundreds of parts. It's very easy to put together. The cockpit is also a kit in itself as well, so you do that and you sort of sit back and you take some photographs and you're very proud of yourself, and that could stand alone by itself. And then you wrap that in the fuselage and the wings, put the engine in, and you've got a set of these different components that come together to make some of its parts in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Christopher, we've spoken a lot about the engineering and the research that's gone into the Merlin, and you've touched on the DB601 as well. Have you got any plans to do, there's at least one more big early war engine, and that's the Jumo 211. Have you got any plans to touch that?
No.
Are you missing out big time?
Is that the Ju-87 or is that the bomber?
Yes, it's the 87, Ju-88 and the Heinkel 111H.
It was a big engine though, wasn't it?
Well, there's a lot of opportunity there for different kits.
I have other plans, to be honest. It's like, I want to get bigger, like my own kit. So that is the way I'm working for at the moment. So I have a couple of the small things, like can I do an engine for that, and can I do an engine for that, and a gun bay here, and a different scale here and there. So I think I have 2 projects where I have to perform 100% of the design work to bring it out, and another 2 or 3 where I have to do a slight redesign. For example, somebody asked me to do an engine set for the Qatari 5A and 5B. So that was a Merlin 45, and that had actually no external differences to the Mark III, except one hydraulic pump on the right cylinder head. I think so. That's the only obvious external difference. So I will bring that out in the near future. So just in a couple of weeks or something. Then the Mercer DB605, Dimen's DB605, of course. And then the Hurricane, of course, and 1-32. And I was thinking about doing it for the 1-24 as well. So upscaling it, making a fit for the Airfix kit, and then see how it goes.
Said on the website 1/48 is coming soon. Would you ever go even smaller to like 72nd scale?
No. 72nd is far too small. I think even 48 is far too small. I just have it there as a teaser. But no, but because it's the stuff I designed, the framing for the cowling for the engine, that actually would need a whole redesign to thicken it to get it into a 48 scale. So I'm not quite sure if I'm into that, to be honest. Detail gets lost.
Is that because you couldn't do it accurately more than anything?
Yeah.
I have to say, for a 1/24 scale or larger, I don't build that scale aircraft, but I would buy one as a standalone display piece.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people now are saying that 1/24 or even larger, there's probably a market there for that. It's a beautiful object, and it's such an important part of our history.
Exactly.
Something to think about.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago when I think it was one of the Zukimura 32nd scale. It might have been the Owl, the HE219, and they had an engine sat on its own as though it was being worked on, and everybody was asking them, "Are you going to release that as a stand?" And they were thinking, they kind of sort of didn't say yes, didn't say no, but as we know, there's nothing come of it. But it was amazing.
I saw a double Wasp kit a long time ago, Mark. I think that was 1/9 scale or something like that.
Is that Williams Brothers that would have been?
I think so, yeah. And I'd love one of those, but
I might even have that. Or a Larone. I've definitely got a Larone.
how have you?
World War one.
You better put it away when I visit, mate.
You help yourself in there, mate. You go for it.
Yeah, I've bought the 1:9 scale DB601 or 5. Not quite sure what company that was, but the detail is not very good, actually.
I think they were made for radio control aircraft, just to give a little bit of realism. I know the radials were.
Could be, yeah. It's like the idea for the 1-24 scale engines actually came from the large scale plane forum, because they asked if I could do one in 1-24 scale, and then I can give it a try. And then it didn't work out at the beginning, just upscaling wasn't the solution. And so a bit of redesign was necessary, so I left it aside and carried on with other projects. But then I got myself a small handheld scanner and scanned the parts from the Airfix kit and got them into my CAD program and designed it to the parts I have scanned. So that was far easier than sitting there and taking every measurement from every possible angle you can think about.
How long does it actually take you to scan and then do the computer work? What kind of time scale is that?
The scan actually doesn't take that long, maybe half an hour or something.
Really, as quick as that?
Yeah. If you know how to do it. So I had to figure it out at the beginning, but after that, actually, it was just straightforward. And then doing the design work is actually quite easy. What I always explain to people who have requests for any parts is that the most time-consuming part of the design work is to research the material, like drawings, pictures, and books and stuff like that, and going through every possible source available. That takes a lot of time. So if drawings are available, because drawings are the best for me to work with, then a project is more likely to be done from my point of view. And as soon as I have to take a deep dive into the research, contact museums, and that's too much, too time consuming, and that keeps me off projects other people or myself want to accomplish. Like the Bitley still have on hold. So yeah. But especially for the Bitley, I'm in contact with a guy from Norway, and he works together with the guy who has got the Facebook group on which is called the Project, I think. And he is into rebuilding a Bitley 1-1.
1-1?
Yeah. He wants to fly one again. So ambitious, I would say. Not impossible.
It must have deep pockets.
Not quite sure about that. But I love that idea, seeing a Whitley fly again, especially because of the aircraft had.
Was that a Merlin-engined aircraft?
Yeah. Merlin 20. He has got some parts and a scanner, and the guy in Norway is doing the design work for him, but also on and off. So I would like to deepen our ideas a bit more and see what comes out of that, and get some information for the measurements to get my Whitley done, actually, as a kit in 1-32 scale.
Well, that'd be fantastic. And it'd also complement what Airscale has announced today or shown the scans of, which is the cockpit for the 132nd Dornier 17.
Yeah.
So that would work quite nicely. But the other thing you need to work on, and you've already sent the example across which we had on the stand at Telford, you've done the undercarriage for a 132nd Sterling.
Yeah, and now you want to have the kit.
Well, you've gone so far, you might as well go the rest of the way.
God, that'd be massive, wouldn't it?
It would.
It has been done before.
Yeah, it has been done before.
Was it an IDVAC form?
Yes, I think so. Or Tigger. Is it the same? Not quite sure.
I know that someone did one in the States and they ended up having to redo the whole thing because of the fuselage was like a banana. But anyway, okay, Mark.
The plumbing, wiring, ancillaries really bring the engine to life. How did you decide how far was far enough in terms of added detail?
Basically, is it believable? As in, can I do any more? So going as far as I could to get everything in there. So there's a little swing arm and levers and so on that are sort of on the back of the engine, and I fabricated those from scratch to add to the print. And the plumbing as well, and this is where we get into the kind of reference material. The firewall, there's sort of several different ways to do that firewall depending on which reference you're looking at. So I had to pick one. You're showing up a picture of the bare plastic, as it were, with the fuse wire.
Is that lead wire you've used in there?
It is, yes. 3 gauges of fuse wire, basically, because it's just nice and malleable and wire.
It bends naturally. Looks really nice, doesn't it, when it's all...
It does. And using what was already there as the print, but then adding extra plumbing to it. And it's basically the number of pipes and so on, just counting those and making sure they're all in the right direction, going in the right way. And then a few little kind of greeblies which were put in at the back. So if it's a square box, it's finding a square box and we're stat.
Did you at that point where you're thinking, no, they can't see that, so I'm not putting it in? Or did you just think, no, I'm going to
do it. Yeah, I'm going to put it in. I'm going to honor the print. I'm going to honor the kit. It's a case of seeing how far I can go. Basically, the philosophy is go as far as you can go until you can't. So doing that, and of course, test fitting the engine into the frame. You're holding your breath each time, and you find a way of cooking it in. And I did break a couple of the parts off a few times. Sorry, Chris.
Okay.
But, that's just me being a little bit ambitious, but finding a little way to kind of almost corkscrew it in and then corkscrew it back out again, and finding out what will and won't work as well, because there's quite a few times where you glue something in and then it's locking you in place, as it were, and you can't then get the engine out, or you can't get the engine in, for instance. So yeah, it's really
I must admit, it looks amazing without paint, never mind after you've painted it.
I think of it like it's a bit like life drawing. So my mum was a fine art painter and my dad was a graphic designer, but I grew up life drawing, from my mum's teaching. And so it's a bit like that. So it's what you're doing is observing what you're seeing. So it's a mechanical life drawing, as it were. So you're going on that. I don't necessarily understand everything mechanically that's going on in terms of the terminology, but I can see that pipe is that kind of gauge and doing it by eye, a bit like the paint, as it were, sort of gauging that. So using the real reference and you do more observing than you actually do making.
So if I could follow up on that one, Carl, did the open engine presentation influence your painting and weathering approach, say, compared to one which was all buttoned up?
It's a good question. I wanted it to be not too weathered, this being an early kit, and I did an early Spitfire, and there was one, I think it's an Imperial War Museum image, or it could be one from the Wing Leader archive reference photo. It's a black and white photo of an aircraft in the hangar, and it's not that weathered at all. It's got a little bit of wear to it, but it's not that much. And because I was wondering about sitting this in a sort of diorama in a setting where it was in a workshop, and at one point I was thinking about painting it with a light effect, so it looked like the lights were on and it's so on. That's a whole other kind of extra level of
shadowing and all that type of thing.
Yeah, that's a challenge. I don't let the kit shine for itself kind of thing, as what I ended up with. So I wanted it as an in-use thing, but also it's as if it's just literally on a field or it's in a workshop, and you could then start to add figures around it and kind of turn it into a scene. So it's almost like you're taking the scene away and you're just left with the aircraft. So I think I wanted it in real terms as well, so it felt worn but not too worn. So it's not a fresh out of the factory, because that for me, I'd rather have a bit of history and a bit of storytelling. Like we all have scars or wrinkles, or we show our life on our face kind of thing, and I wanted a bit of that in it as well. So fresh paint effect as well, it doesn't really interest me in that way. So yeah.
So it's got that used look, but it's not overly used. Yeah. Right, got you.
Exactly. Yeah. It's played a few times, and it's been up and down in the Battle of Britain a few times. But also, I should say, the instruction booklet and also the Wing Leader books, I use those as reference. So the Richard Alexander published books, they're brilliant. The instruction booklet with the kit is the lesson in how to do instructions. And having just done the Tacom Horton, which is the opposite direction, which is like
it's more like a suggestion, is it?
Not even. I mean, it's like a wild goose chase. It's like looking at a tube map in terms of what parts go where. So it's a bit of, I'm waving my hands around to describe what the instructions do, but you don't know what goes where, so you almost throw them out the window. Now, the Qatari instructions are something else with all the reference photos in there. So the actual aircraft is one of the photos that they have there as well. So you're able to gauge the exhaust staining and the smoke on the wings and so on from the gun ports. You can gauge how much there is, or the wing root chipping, and so you can get quite accurate that way.
Okay, thanks for that. Nevs, I think you've got a question, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I won't digress too much. I'm fascinated that you're tackling the Horton because it looks like a gorgeous kit. I've got the 72nd ones, and I was telling the guys before, I've just bought its big prospective brother, which would have been the bomber version, H-18. Anyway, that's a big digression. One of the things, so we do touch on tips to modelers a lot on the show, but just to go off script a little bit, one of the things I'm interested in collecting a few more notes on is modelers' recommended paints, because I know Mark was touching on the green for the engine block, but specifically more
the light blue underneath, please, Nebs. That's the next one I want to know.
So, yeah, that would be, well, that's always a can of worms, that, Mark. What colour are we using there? But the brown that you use for the camouflage is quite interesting because it's quite a lighter shade compared to some of the model recommendations out there, and contrasting to the dark green, which is quite a colour as well. What colours did you use, but would you use those again?
They're from the Lancaster, so I just had paint left over. That's the cheating question, or cheating answer. But let me just pick them out because they are here.
It's good that you're using the same ones, though, same Air Force. It's a bit of consistency.
Well, I did a lot of research for the Lancaster, obviously, because in terms of how the paint faded, what time of year it was, what the weather was at the time. So I went into all of that with the Lancaster. So this similar kind of, it's summertime, fairly dry, and the dark earth and the dark green.
Summertime and dry over Britain.
Guess what? There's bottles here. I haven't actually written on what the mix is.
Oh, they're homemade.
Of course. Yeah. So nothing straight from the bottle. So,
ready to do a screenshot then.
I know we're waiting for the one trick pot, aren't we?
Well, it's in it. Yeah, it is described in the article in Tamiya Model Magazine.
Nice plug.
I can tell the brown's definitely not Gun Sanyo because it's too brown. Gun Sanyo's got a hint of red.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's and it's lightened with yellow, I think, both of them. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's in the article, and of course, typically me, I've not written on the bottles what the mix is. So
that does look very light. That one is your brown?
That's the green. That's not the green, is it?
Yeah. So yeah, much lighter. So it's
like oh wow, yeah.
That's like a desert yellow, isn't it, almost?
Yeah, not quite. So yeah. And yeah, I did a lot of testing from researching what paints are going to be correct and so on. So obviously the top surface is going to be lighter. And this is what I was saying earlier about what I want to do is follow the imagery. So it's not necessarily a kind of correct paint chip from the factory, for instance, that's, it's not a correct dark earth. It just looks correct at scale. So that's what I'm going for. So it might not win best in show or something for that, because it might not be correct in terms of historically correct, but visually it just looks correct.
It's more a scale colour.
Exactly.
You've also got to remember there's an awful lot of modelers out there that go a little bit all out on getting the right colours or trying to get as close to.
That's what's written in instructions about the underside as well, the sky, this kind of light blue, greeny.
Duck egg blue.
Or is it duck egg green?
Do it by eye.
But there were different variations, weren't there? Even during the Battle of Britain, there was a bluer version, and there's
sky blue. Nobody actually does a sky blue. Not that the RAF use.
And this is what I've done on the Horton, which is going to be published next, which is just use a lot of different colours. And it's rather than RLM 76 or whatever it is, it's lots of colours that are around that kind of colour, and together it makes up what you visually see as a whole colour, but it's not. So I think this is part of what we're also going for on the Spitfire, is something that's a bit lighter at the leading edge, as it were. That's the higher point on the wing, and then it's darker towards the trailing edge. And same on the fuselage as well. So it's lighter on top and darker at the bottom. So it's kind of forcing the form whole thing.
We're into figure painting tactics here, aren't we, really?
This is it. It's like life drawing. This is what I'm saying. It's like life drawing. So you're like figure painting. So you're forcing the perspective. You're forcing the shade and the light.
So the colour you actually held up just to give our audience a little bit of an idea. If you look at the MRP range, they do both an RAF dark earth and a lighter dark earth, which were used on biplanes for the lower wings. And yours is probably closer to the lighter of the two out of the bottle from the MRP range for the earth.
What we're doing is seeing a lot of these images on screens, which of course it's not an
Colour representation.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
exactly. So
Yes, white balance and everything. Yeah, fully get it.
yeah, and also doing these for a magazine article as well is also that to keep in mind, because actually using colour as pigment for a print.
And also the harsh lighting for photography to actually make it stand out in the magazine as well.
NATO black. Not quite black. NATO dark black. Yeah.
And of course, these engines were painted black, never really used black. So it's going to be NATO black.
Yeah.
The German grey, for instance, gives a good representation of black, and then you can get deeper. You can do a panel line wash and get the shadows.
Okay, so whilst you were on this vein then, if you were tempted to build a second Qatari Spit with another Fischkopp Merlin, would you do anything differently the second time round?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
And remember, Chris is listening.
Oh, I'd show the camshafts as well. I'd do a proper scene with mechanics with the getting in there, as it were, and having there's another image of like a mechanics tutorial or something, again, black and white from the photo archives, from the Wing Leader archives. And you've got lots of the kind of apprentices sat on the floor, and you've got the tail up, propped up.
It's a good idea. That would be a nice diorama. That's a Telford winner, that one.
And do it in black and white as well. So paint it black and white. So it's just grayscale. So it's like the photo itself. So you just using one photo, using that, and it's got the crane, like the winches, the cranes that are to lift the engines in and out. So it's got that. So you've got the guys in their overalls and so on, and it looks very dusty and so on. And I would use the correct size spanners.
So you'd make your own then?
Yeah, that's a good idea. But Carl, I think your first idea for your kit was actually to make it as, what was the serial number? November 3200, as a ditched aircraft.
The Dunkirk one?
Yeah, the Dunkirk one, exactly, yeah.
And the one which is now flying at Duxford.
So I think that was your very first idea.
Yeah, I think tempted by water again, fascinated by doing water, but what state would it be in? And then you'd have to have figures around it, and and so it wouldn't be the Dunkirk Spitfire.
Well, isn't there a famous picture of the German soldiers clambering over that?
And holiday makers as well, yeah. And I wouldn't do the one from the film, because that's just got a brick handle as a prop shaft.
It's all movies. Yeah.
What with the prop shafts? Aluminium or what would it? Sorry, I'm digressing here. I'm shooting off on a different tangent.
I don't know. There's a good Spitfire question.
I'm pretty sure they would.
Is this the 2-prop or the 3-prop?
Some of the early rotors most definitely would, especially for the 3-bladers, before they actually went to the metal.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
What originally pushed you towards a high-fidelity Merlin in 32nd, and what gap were you trying to fill for the serious modeler?
That's actually a quite good question. But when everybody knows where Qatari comes from, so they actually made a new brand with new high-quality models, like Carl already said. Also, the instructions are state-of-the-art. So is everything else in the box. And the team is just brilliant. And the only thing what is missing is an engine, for example, or the gun base I also offer for the Spitfire. So that was the main idea. Make an brilliant aircraft even better for the modelers who wish to do it. So I'm actually orientated, I would say, because as you know, I don't have that much output. I won't get rich because of my work I do, but what I do is I make a lot of people happy. And I think that is actually one of the main reasons I'm doing it. And to be honest, I still have a smile on my face every time I open the printer and get the products out of it, because it's still mind-blowing. 1 second I have it on my computer and another minute I have it in my hand. It's like fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I must admit, I was probably one of the first to actually buy one of your engines.
Yeah.
And I was probably one of the first to actually cock it up as well, with actually cutting one of the wires on the side, the tubes on the side of the engine block. But when I actually got it out and I just looked at it and thought, I'm going to put that to one side and I'm going to come back to this. And it's still sat in the box next door waiting to actually be able to go into the project. But no, the range of Spits and the quality of the work that Qatari actually are putting out is fantastic. And also the episode that you haven't heard yet, which is coming out this Thursday, Mark from Qatari is on again and talking about what's coming out in the future. But obviously they've just announced their Mark 1 late version, which is Battle of Britain era. So obviously there's going to be another market available for your engine. The 5B is in production in China, so that should be boxed, they reckon, in the next few weeks.
Okay, yeah.
There's the key to get that part for the engine pushed out, because I need a 5B engine.
Yeah, it's exactly like Carl already mentioned. You can watch or look at 1,000 pictures on the internet, and they say it's a 5B regarding the firewall, and you've got a whole different setup of equipment on that firewall. It's like, which one to take?
Yes, exactly.
So, except for the hydraulic pump on the crankcase, which is different on the Merlin 45, it's also the equipping on the firewall. So that is actually the main reason to make a small redesign for the Mark 5A and 5B. So yeah, if anybody from your listeners has some resources and drawings for the firewall of the Mark 5A and 5B, happily get in touch.
If you'd asked me that question 15 years ago, the answer would have been yes, because I had a set of manuals for a Spit 5B.
But are they not?
I lent it to someone who unfortunately passed away, and their estate actually gave them to a museum, and it's been a nightmare ever since. But anyway, boulders.
For the newly announced 24 scale early Merlin is big news. What drove you to move into the 24 scale, and how different has the development process been?
For the Airfix Mark 1.
Yeah. And more to the point, when are you starting the Mark 9? And why not?
No, Mark 1 first.
So actually the idea, as I said, is from the large scale plane society, I would say. So the question, if I couldn't release the set as a 24 scale as well. So after doing the scan, then I did the release and the redesign. And after the scan, it actually was a straight way forward, because I could actually do the measurements to the part. So that was easy. Not so easy is the gun bay for the 24 scale Spitfire, because the wings of the Airfix kit are slightly different to the Qatari kit from the layout. So that won't be released. But I set up a post yesterday in the LSP forum and told them about the release of the 24 engine, just to inform all the guys who don't have Facebook or Instagram. And then one user came back and asked for or a cockpit or both or everything else.
I was going to say, isn't the early Airfix Mark 1 pretty ropey nowadays?
Very basic. No wheel wells. Nothing.
Very basic. Nothing. Yeah.
You could go to town on that. I mean, is it a decent basis to work off?
No, to be honest, no. It's too old. I think 1976, I think.
76 or 72? I know they brought the Harrier out in 74. The Spit came out, was the first of the 24th range. It must have been 72 or something like that. I think it was earlier.
The Mark 1 was designed to be played with, to have the undercarriage coming up and down and stuff like that. And the answer is 1970.
Before my time.
I believe the best out of the bunch is the JU87.
Yeah. Oh, that's gorgeous, that one. The Stuka is the best out of the bunch, definitely.
Yeah. So with all the questions on hand from other people, I was really thinking about doing a kit for myself, to be honest, because the Airfix kit is really too bad to make certain compartments, because if I put in the certain compartments, then I have to make it to fit the Airfix kit. And like Carl said, it was a lot of work to thin down the Qatari kit parts to make my engine fit. So for the measurement engine and the Hurricane engine, I actually tried to make it like a perfect fit to the kit parts. So there's no rework or very less rework to be done by the modeler itself. Making a cockpit fit the Airfix kit.
Big ask.
It's, yeah, it is. And I don't think I can put out the quality I wish for myself. And as soon as I notice that, then I stop the project. So that's why the only option actually is to make a whole kit. And I think I had a question a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks, where I asked the community how much they would pay for a Spitfire kit in 1:24 scale. And the answer was €200, I think.
It's a bit low, that, isn't it?
It is. So I think €300 is a number we can talk about. But then, of course, with the detail every customer of mine is used to. So that would be perfect, actually, I guess. So, but let's wait and see. I think I'm going to have a surprise release of my first kit on the SMC this year. Let's wait and see. I got certain input and the project actually seems very nice.
We'll come to your stand and have a look. I, for one, am definitely planning to be at SMC this year.
Yeah, it's a bit easier across the channel than it is across the pond.
Yeah, quite. Look forward to seeing that. Okay, you talked about you looking at 2 potential kits, and you talked about the Whitley. Are you going to tease us or give us a clue what the second aircraft is that you're thinking of bringing a kit out of?
No.
Is it the same era?
It is.
Right, okay.
Is it English?
It is.
Oh. Has it got 2 engines or 1 engine?
2 engines.
Oh, right, okay.
I think that's enough.
Well, he's not going to tell us right or wrong anyway, so anyway. Okay, when you're looking at the fit of the engine into the kit, how much emphasis did you place on installation geometry, the engine bearers, the mounts, and the firewall alignment versus the engine itself?
Actually, the design is to drawing.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to make any changes, then that was because of the kit.
Yeah.
But because, as I said, my main resources are actually drawings. As you mentioned, I'm a trained aircraft mechanic, so I'm used working with drawings.
Yeah.
It's quite easy for me. So making a model after a drawing with perfect measurements and then design it is actually for me straightforward. But fitting it into a kit is something entirely different.
Yeah.
Because the kit manufacturer certainly has some issues they have to take care of. And I guess 100% measurement isn't possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a guess. No idea how they design and produce in detail.
Okay, so jumping to car for a second, you said you had to modify frame 5 backwards to actually install the firewall?
Frame 5?
Frame 5, gosh, wow. Yeah, that plastic, because there's a little lip, as it were, and the top cowling cover to come onto. So it's like a double thickness of plastic that's that kind of arch over the top. And you're also cutting away the kind of box dummy, where the engine would be, for instance, is like a piece of plastic that's in a kind of box frame, as it were. So that adds extra layers of plastic there as well. And once you do thin down the sort of arch, the wall of that, the plastic wall, as it were, the plastic thickness, then the firewall mates with that really well. And it just goes to show how well, if you're building it to drawings, Chris, how well Qatari are doing it, building this to plans too. The length of from that firewall to the spinner plate is exactly the same as well. So it is that kind of drop fit where you've got 2 manufacturers working to the same plans. That's what it felt like. And thinning the plastic down, it's nice plastic to work with, and it's not difficult once you start down that road. It just takes time and patience. And like saying about an expensive kit, for instance, kind of the expensive kits are often the ones that you've got the most work. So like doing a massive Lancaster, for instance, there's a lot of kit there for your money. So actually miles per miles, it's actually, more cost effective. That's what I found. And I was getting criticized. It's like people are saying, oh, you've spent all this money on this kit and you've cut it up. I was like, actually, I built that one kit. I didn't build lots of smaller kits. I built one larger kit, and that actually spread out the kind of the value, if you like, better. So this is where that comes into play, where you might be spending more money on an individual item, but actually the value that's in it means that you're spending longer doing it as well, and it becomes a slower process. So it's quite a nice methodical meditation almost to kind of get that all right and just make sure everything's even through the wall thickness. I hold stuff up. I've got a very strong light, so I hold that up to the light just to check the thicknesses, as it were, so you can see almost like X-ray how thick the plastic is. That's another way of doing it.
How deep did you have to go back from the front to actually get the component, the firewall, to fit in?
4 mil.
Okay.
So it's scraping, sanding. I saw on a YouTube video someone had carved with a scalpel blade, they'd actually carved a notch in. So it's a way of modifying it, making a kind of modified blade to kind of act like a scraper that you can scrape back the right amount. I didn't do that, but I had that in mind when I was doing it. So yeah, just a lot of filing, a lot of dust.
Christopher, from a production standpoint, what would you say the biggest challenges in casting and engineering engines at this level of complexity?
Resources.
Right.
Yeah. No, every kind of resources, and take the drawings, take the time, because I'm not doing it full time, obviously. Yeah, clip on proper drawings, proper reference material. And that is time consuming, and that is the biggest challenge. Yeah. This time for the DB605 engine, I took a different approach and contacted a museum near me, which is in Hanover, and they have a DB605, not the D type, which was installed in the K version, but an A type, and I tried to scan it. So that didn't quite work out. But the information I got from that idea and the scan and the people I've met and the information I've received and the invitation to return every time I wish will help a lot to get highly detailed DB605 engine. And you might have seen that I've test printed the engine already. It has a couple of faults in it. I know which ones, which is good. But also I've noticed that I don't have to design every bolt head, for example, because it won't be seen. So that saves a lot of time. Yeah. So it's learning by doing. Good.
And I would assume that you went through all of the usual testing of resin, different flexibility of resin with what was suitable to your product as well.
I did that at the very beginning. Maybe some of my customers are listening as well, and some might have received black engine kits, for example. That was a test run for the differences of the resins, but at the end of the day, I just went for the gray one because I think it looks better. I can see differences in it. It's far better to highlight it to any customers for pictures, for example, whereas black is just, light swallowing, I would say.
Yeah, I think grey resin actually catches when you're just looking at bare plastic or bare grey resin. It actually catches the light better on your modelling bench, so you can actually see details a lot better, can't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Are all resins the same?
No.
Apart from the colour, that is?
No. You've got resins which are a bit more brittle than others. So mine is quite brittle actually, but there are resins which are a bit more brittle. So Carl, be lucky.
Okay. So where can people find your products for sale?
For everyone on Facebook and Instagram, just look for Fischkopp Model Company. And for everyone who hasn't got Instagram or Facebook, then it's just my website, www.fischkoppcompany.de.
And that's Fischkopp.
Yeah.
Chris, where does the name come from?
Fischkopp is a northern German term. It would loosely translate to fish head in English.
I've heard of Dummkopf. Not quite.
And it's not the same as Dummkopf.
Well, you Germans have about 10 different ways to say the word the, so yeah. Die, die, de.
Yeah, exactly. I think five different words for the,
Fantastic.
Okay, and Carl, where can people actually see images of your Spit and your other builds? Do you have your own website?
Yeah, well, I've got my Instagram, which is CR_scale models.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. And Chris, thank you very much for your sponsorship. It is appreciated. Every little helps to actually keep the show going.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Okay, guys, thank you very much. And if you've got any announcements or anything you want to actually talk about in the future, please don't hesitate to actually get in touch and we can get you back on again. Thank you for your time, guys.
Lovely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Cap.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
want cutting-edge detail for your kits? Then take a look at Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, run by USAF veteran Mike Reeves. With real-world aircraft experience as a crew chief, Mike knows exactly where accuracy counts. And today, he's bringing that knowledge to life with precision 3D printed parts. From seamless intakes and nozzles to dropped flaps, pods, pylons, and cockpit upgrades, Phase Hanger's prints capture the crisp edges and fine detail that limitations in injection molding just can't reproduce. From 1/72nd to 1/32nd scale, you'll find add-ons from Cold War classics to the latest frontline jets with frequent new additions to the product range. Every piece is designed by modelers, for modelers, and faithfully reproduced on state-of-the-art printers and shipped worldwide, and are ready to drop straight into your next build. With additions to the product line landing all the time, there's always something fresh to elevate your next build. Explore the full range at phasehangerresin.com and follow Phase Hanger on Facebook and Instagram for regular updates and inspiration. Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, authentic detail designed with a veteran's eye and available to modelers everywhere. Phase Hanger is a proud sponsor of the Beyond the Box Art podcast.
Think you've heard it all? Think again. Follow Beyond the Box Art on the socials for updates that breaks the boundaries, bends rules, and redefines the ordinary.
Right, that's it, guys. That's the end of episode 19. So, from Boulders.
Goodbye all, don't forget the Bolton show is on the 25th of January at the Tough Sheet Stadium.
From Dan.
See you, Benchmates. Just remember, everyone you build, it's just practice for the next one.
Nevs.
Bye everyone, and anyone who can make it, looking forward to seeing you all at the Bolton show.
Mark.
Goodbye everybody, and all being well, we'll see you at Bolton.
From Shane.
Thanks everyone, appreciate you having me on.
You're very welcome. And from myself, thank you very much.
Hang on, what about me?
Well, you have been missing for so long, we just wondered if you'd actually noticed you weren't there.
Oh, blimey. Right, ta-ra everyone, and remember, 60 parts or less, and I'll see you at Bolton.
And for myself, we've got a table at the Bolton show, so come and see us, have a chat, and we'll discuss Wongy's choice of culinary expertise, as it was dodgy as anything anyway. With that, thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Ta-ra.